Chapter 4459 was still on her mind. AOG removed the isolation array and gave another warning before arranging for the elites he brought to be stationed on the spot. Captain Chi and the others could not sit still any longer. They were already at a disadvantage to begin with, and now that AOG had brought 10,000 of the Nightmare Clan's elites, the outcome was almost certain. Yun Chujio pondered for a moment. To capture a thief, one must first capture the leader. Why not capture AOG first, and then use him to threaten the people of the Nightmare Clan? This way the situation at Jiguan Mountain would be reversed immediately. Thus, that night, Hei Shinjio transformed into a wisp of light mist and floated to the enemy camp. AOJ's tent was very eye-catching. Yun Chujio found it almost effortlessly. This fellow saw that there was light coming out from inside the tent, so he did not dare to float inside directly. Instead, he attached himself to the tent and eavesdropped. Mo Luan's voice came from inside. "Your Highness, you shouldn't have said anything about letting Ying Qing Luo be a side concubine today. If this gets into the ears of Princess Meiyin, I'm afraid she won't let it go." AOG said with a slightly cold tone, "We're just using each other. She won't make a fuss. Besides, the initiative is no longer in her hands. It's not up to her. Your Highness, that Princess Meiyin has a lot of evil techniques in her hands. Her guards wear masks all day long, so I'm afraid they won't be easy to deal with. Why do you have to make her unhappy? Besides, that Ying Qing Luo is just a pretty girl. Why do you like her?" Mo Luan said disapprovingly. AOG did not say anything for a long time. When Yun Chujio thought he would not answer, she heard him say, "I just think that she is very similar to her." AOG did not continue after he said that. He only let out a faint sigh. Mo Luan said somewhat exasperatedly, "Your Highness, have you not forgotten about that Yun Chujio of the human race? I don't understand. You haven't spent much time with her. Moreover, that Yun Chujio is full of schemes and evil schemes. If it weren't for her, our Yin clan would not have had internal strife. She is a jinx. Why have you taken a fancy to her? Moreover, it's been such a long time and you still can't forget her? Didn't they say that she was taken back by the Yun family of Towering Sky Continent? She's probably already a biological child. Don't even think about it. Jinx. If it weren't for her, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to take the opportunity to eliminate the 4 great families. It's not that she's good, but she's different from others. Compared to her, the other women are like dead fish's eyes. They don't have her intelligence," AOG said slowly. Hei Shinjio, who had been eavesdropping, felt a little complicated. She didn't expect AOG to miss her so much. However, the two sides were now enemies. Although she felt that he had good taste, she couldn't be soft-hearted because of this. She had to teach him a lesson. Mo Luan listened to AOJ's words and said somewhat speechlessly, "Your Highness, let go of Yun Chujio's matter first. What should we do next?" AOG put away his drifting thoughts and said coldly, "Take down Jiguan Mountain as soon as possible, and then use it as a base to attack the Imperial City. As long as the Imperial City is in our hands, the rest of the matters will be easy to handle." AOG and Mo Luan discussed for a while and then Mo Luan left. Yun Chujio was a little excited. As long as AOG fell asleep, she would float into the tent and restrain him, and the rest of the matters would be much easier to handle. After a while there was no light in the tent. Hei Shinjio waited for a while to make sure there were no other sounds inside before floating into the tent. Chapter 4460 The Lord had arrived. Hei Shinjio used the weak light to discover that AOG had already fallen asleep. Hei Xinjia's heart leaped with joy. As long as she transformed into her human form, she would be able to restrain AOG. When that time came, TSK she would be elated. However, this fellow tragically discovered that she was unable to transform anymore. This fellow had tried several times but to no avail. Only after a while did he realize that either AOG had a spirit-locking item on him, or that there was a spirit-locking formation inside the tent. Damn it, he was really smart. It was probably because of the incident with the Nightmare Clan general that he had taken precautions. Hei Shinjio had no choice but to leave angrily. So what if she didn't leave? If she were to transform into a human form in the distance, she would probably be captured before she could even reach the tent. If she were to be killed without being able to transform, then she would really be dead. She couldn't afford to take such a risk. The trump card that had always been successful could not be used now. One could imagine how depressed Hei Shinjio must be. In the next few days, this fellow was even more depressed. AOG led the Nightmare Soldiers and the Royal Guards of the Ghost Clan and forced everyone to retreat one after another. If they continued to retreat, they would only be able to retreat to the bottom of the Ghoul's Sorrow. The camp was filled with gloomy clouds and mist. Hei Shinjio did not have any good ideas. Although she was abnormal and powerful, Aog didn't know what kind of treasure he had. Yun Chujio had secretly gone there 3 times and failed. Even within 1,000 feet of Aog's tent, she couldn't change her form. In the middle of the night, Aog suddenly launched a surprise attack. Yun Chujio and the others were forced to the vicinity of Guijiancho. In the night, Aog was dressed in luxurious silver clothes. He looked at Yun Chujio arrogantly and said, "Ingqing Luo, now that you are in a desperate situation, aren't you going to surrender?" "Ingqing Luo, don't worry. As long as you surrender, you will be my side concubine. Moreover, as long as you don't resist, I will not harm your lives. To put it bluntly, who controls the ghost territory doesn't have any effect on you. Why do you have to continue resisting stubbornly? Whether you live or die, you can choose for yourselves." Yun Chujio was fuming in her heart. Aog had brought over 20,000 nightmare race troops and 10,000 royal guards. They only had a few thousand people on their side. The difference was too huge. However, the nightmare race's cultivation speed in the ghost region was faster than the ghost race's. No matter how fast she would not be able to turn the situation around in a short period of time. For now, the only plan was to go to Ghost Head's Grimace first and let everyone enter the inheritance prison. Then, the red skeleton would move the inheritance prison to another place. This way, everyone would be able to escape. However, putting aside whether the red skeleton would agree or not, doing so would be a little cowardly. It would probably be a blow to their morale. Aog saw that Yun Chujio did not say anything and thought that she was already prepared to surrender. A trace of pride flashed across his eyes. After subduing these people, he would think of a way to get rid of Princess Meiyan. The ghost region would be within his grasp. Captain Qi and the others were somewhat moved. Now they had no way out. Moreover, Aog was right. Regardless of whether it was the Ghost Clan or the Yen Clan, as long as they could survive, it was enough. Yun Chujio glanced at them and guessed their plans. Could it be that they could only give up on the Imperial region for now? She and Sha Wuhan could escape by relying on the prison of inheritance. However, all the hard work they had put in over the past few days would be for naught. At this moment, there was a commotion in the distance. A large number of Yen clan soldiers knelt on the ground. A voice that sounded like a tsunami rang out, "Xing Zun." Chapter 4461 looked down on the world. Aog's face instantly stiffened. Xing Zun? Why was Xing Zun here? Mo Wan's reaction was even more exaggerated. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Although they had heard that Xing Zun had appeared in the Dark Continent, there had been no news of him since then. Why had he suddenly appeared here? Xing Zun's position in the hearts of the Yen tribesmen was like the ghost ancestor to the Ghost Clan. Not to mention Aog, the crown prince, even the Yen emperor was nothing in front of Xing Zun. Aog turned around stiffly, only to see a man wearing a silver mask slowly walking over under the moonlight. Although that man was only wearing plain white clothes, and although one could not see the man's face clearly, the dignity of looking down on the world made people involuntarily want to kneel down. Hei Shinjio was stunned at first, then revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Wasn't this her gigolo? TSK, this way of appearing with an aura was really pretentious. Mo Wan was overwhelmed by the huge pressure and knelt down on the ground with a plop. Aog's forehead was full of cold sweat. He wanted to persevere, but he still could not withstand the pressure of the Xing Zun and knelt down on the ground. The pride in Aog's heart seemed to have been forcefully crushed by someone. He did not even dare to have the slightest bit of resistance. Was he the Xing Zun? In front of this person he could not help but feel inferior. Such a difference was like the bright moon and the candle flame. There was no comparison at all. The Xing Zun did not say anything. He did not even look at Aog and the Yen race soldiers. His gaze fell straight on Yun Chujio. Even though she had transformed into an unfamiliar appearance, he only needed a glance to know that this was his little Jio. Yun Chujio originally wanted to laugh, but unknowingly her face was already filled with tears. She revealed a bright smile with tears. "You're back?" "Yes, I'm back." These two simple sentences were filled with a strong longing. Yun Chujio threw herself into the Lord's embrace and began to cry. The Lord tightened his grip on her and Xing Zun's eyes were sparkling. The others were confused when they saw the two embracing each other. What was going on? How did the Yen clan's Xing Zun get involved with a ghost girl? What did he mean by coming back? Wasn't it said that Princess Meiyan of the Ghost Clan was infatuated with Xing Zun? Besides, how old was Ingqing Luo? How could she get involved with Xing Zun? Hei Shinjio wiped her tears and said fiercely, "Prince Charming, they bullied me. You have to avenge me." That Aog is so shameless that he wants to take me as his concubine. As soon as Yun Chujio finished her words, everyone felt as if their necks were strangled and they couldn't breathe. Especially Aog, whose face was as pale as paper. He couldn't even maintain his kneeling position and collapsed on the ground. Your Excellency, I don't know her. She is your woman. Please forgive me. Aog said with difficulty. The Lord gave him a cold glance and raised his hand. Aog could even feel the shadow of death looming over him. Hey Shinjo quickly said, Male God, please show mercy. Although this Aog is annoying, he is the crown prince of the Yen clan after all. Moreover, he is quite formidable in the war. Let him deal with that old witch, Mei Yen. Since little Jio is pleading for you, then I will spare you temporarily. All of you get up. Xingzun said indifferently. Chapter 4462 was given to her little Jio? Aog's heart trembled. Perhaps he was thinking too much. It was probably just a coincidence. Little Jio should be Yin Qingluo's nickname. Moreover, Yun Chujio should be in the towering sky continent. How could she come to the ghost region? It was impossible that she was Yun Chujio. Although many thoughts flashed through Aog's mind for a moment, his expression had already regained its calmness. After he stood up, he did not say anything. He just stood there with his hands hanging down with a pale face. He was very unwilling to accept this. The ghost region was just around the corner, but the Lord wanted to help Ying Qingluo capture Princess Mei Yen. Wouldn't all his previous efforts be in vain? However, no matter how unwilling he was, he did not dare to reveal the slightest bit of it. In front of this man, all the things that he was proud of had turned to dust. However, he was very glad that this Ying Qingluo was just like Yun Chujio. If she really was Yun Chujio, then he would be even more desperate. Because he did not dare and could not compete with this man. Yun Chujio's eyes were as bright as the stars in the sky. She felt that her taste was really good. Prince Charming, now that that old witch, Princess Mei Yen, is not prepared at all, why don't we just kill our way to the Imperial Palace? The Lord nodded. Then we will attack the Imperial City as you say. Aog, are you not satisfied? Do you think I have ruined your plan? Shengzun asked. Aog was swept by the Lord's glance, and his face turned pale again. He mumbled, No or dare not say? Shengzun said faintly. Aog gritted his teeth. He said with the determination to die, Your Excellency, I really don't understand. The situation is good now. As long as you lead us, we can easily occupy the ghost territory. Do you really have to give up for a woman? Shengzun's voice was slightly cold. If little Jio wants it, she can give it to 3,000 continents, not to mention a mere ghost territory. Hei Xinjia's smile became even brighter when she heard that. The pretty boy was getting better at talking after going out. Aog's face stiffened. He was shocked but also a little disdainful. This Shengzun was too sentimental, wasn't he? It was really disappointing that he could say such words. At this moment, Shengzun's cold voice sounded again. Besides, I'm doing this for the sake of your lives. Do you think that the cultivation speed in the ghost realm is very fast, so you think that the ghost realm is more suitable for the Yen clan? Hearing the Lord's question, Aog's heart tightened. What did he mean by that? The Lord paused for a moment and said, Although the Yen clan and the ghost clan have some similarities, they are different after all. There won't be anything wrong in the short term. However, after more than a year, the sudden increase in cultivation will cause your bodies to explode and you will die. If you don't believe me, you can look inside your dantian and you will find that your dantian is different from the past. Aogmo1, and the others quickly looked inside their dantian. To their horror, they found that their dantian seemed to have grown a lot bigger than before. According to this speed, the Lord was not exaggerating when he said that their bodies would explode and they would die. Aog's face immediately turned ashen. If he had not forced himself to be paralyzed on the ground, he finally understood why Princess Mei Yen had allowed his power to expand again and again. It turned out that all of this was just her conspiracy. No wonder, according to the records, although the Ghost Clan and the Yen Clan had some dealings, no one from the Yen Clan had settled in the Ghost region. It turned out that this was the real reason. Chapter 4463. Get lost. The soldiers of the nightmare race were thrown into a riot, and then they knelt on the ground. Shengzun was indeed Shengzun, always able to save them from trouble. Facing the shouts of the soldiers of the nightmare race, Shengzun just waved his hand to let them stand up and said to Aog, I believe that you were able to return to the Dark Continent and enter the Ghost region because someone was plotting behind the scenes, right? You were merely being used as knives. If my guess is correct, That person is from the Divine Devil Hall, right? Aog no longer had the slightest bit of arrogance from before. He nodded with difficulty. Your Excellency, your guess is correct. It was indeed the people from the Divine Devil Hall who helped us return to the Dark Continent and helped us find the passage to enter the Ghost Realm. The Lord did not continue to ask but said coldly, surround the Imperial City first and capture Princess Mayenne before we talk. Sheng Zun's voice was cold, but he did not say anything. Aog still had quite a number of Ghost Clan members on his side, but now that they saw the Lord, how could they have the slightest bit of resistance? Moreover, they knew that the Princess Mayenne in the palace was fake, so they followed the Yen clan's army to the Imperial City on their own initiative. Xia Wuhan and the others were completely dumbfounded. Little Jiu's lover was the Yen clan's Sheng Zun? This was too unbelievable, wasn't it? The short and fat man wanted to open his mouth to ask a few times, but he didn't dare. He was simply dying of curiosity. Everyone immediately rushed to the Imperial City and almost didn't encounter any resistance. Firstly, the army was pressing down on the border, so the people guarding the city didn't have the mood to continue fighting. Secondly, the title of Saint Lord was too well known. Just by standing there, the ghouls did not have the courage to resist anymore. Thirdly, the news that Yun Chujio had released had already spread throughout the Ghost Realm. Those people also knew that Princess Mayenne in the palace was a fake, and she even used human blood to cultivate. In the past, they had no choice but to turn against her now. Soon, the Saint Lord Yun Chujio and the others arrived at the Imperial Palace. The ghost race's Emperor Kang Xiao had already turned into a puddle of mud due to fear. He brought his concubines over to surrender while trembling. He kept saying a lot of things, blaming Princess Mayenne for everything. Yun Chujio was too lazy to listen to his nonsense and immediately ordered her men to arrest him. At this moment, a charming and surprised voice was heard. My lord, is it really you? Mayenne, are you dreaming? We finally meet again. Following the voice, Princess Mayenne walked over with several guards. There was no panic on her face. Instead, there was shyness and surprise, as if she had really met her long-lost lover. Sheng Zun did not speak, but his eyes were cold. He had lost a lot of memories and did not remember this Princess Mayenne, but he instinctively disliked this woman. Your Excellency, why didn't you say anything? Have you forgotten Mayenne? Princess Mayenne said with tears in her eyes. Before the Lord said anything, He Xingjiu snorted and said, Old witch, are you shameless? This is my man, get away from me. A trace of anger flashed across Princess Mayen's face and disappeared in an instant. She looked at the Lord sadly and said, Sheng Zun, my lord, you and I were in love back then, but fate played tricks on us and forced us to separate. Do you really not remember Mayenne? Pa. I've seen shameless people before, but this is the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you. In love? Not to mention my Prince Charming, even Aog doesn't like you, a sinister and ugly freak. He Xingjiu cursed while pointing at Princess Mayenne with one hand on the Lord's arm and the other. Aog, does he not care about his face? Chapter 4464, The Life-Exterminating Array. Princess Mayen's eyes fell on the Lord's arm that was held by Yun Chujio, and a trace of viciousness flashed in her eyes. At this moment, He Xingjiu shrank into the Lord's arms and said with a trembling voice, Sheng Zun, that old and ugly witch stared at me. I was scared to death. The Lord said indifferently, you retreat to the back. They'll kill her. He Xingjiu felt very comfortable in her heart. Her pretty boy was really good. He was cold and heartless to other women. She liked his style. Princess Mayenne was so angry. When did she glare at her? This bitch dared to frame her. Also, Sheng Zun had never been close to women. Why was he so protective of this bitch? Just as Princess Mayenne was thinking about it, she suddenly felt a murderous aura. She hurriedly dragged a guard to block in front of her. The guard was swept by the Lord's palm wind and immediately flew out. Without even looking, she knew that Sheng Zun was definitely dead. Princess Mayen's expression was very ugly. She looked at the Lord in disbelief. Lord, you really want to kill me? Sheng Zun did not answer her. Instead, he swung his palm again. Princess Mayenne was prepared this time. She did not use her guards to block Sheng Zun's palm. Instead, she dodged Sheng Zun's palm. Wait, I have something important to say. Princess Mayenne shouted sharply. Sheng Zun stopped his attack and looked at her coldly. Say it. Princess Mayenne took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile. Your Excellency, 10,000 years ago, you personally handed me something and said that we would meet again in the future. You asked me to give you that thing. Why don't we talk in private? After Princess Mayenne said that, she looked at Yun Chujio provocatively. How could a little girl compete with her? She was simply courting death. As long as she had the opportunity to have intimate contact with Xingzun, she did not believe that Xingzun would not be convinced by her beauty. As long as Xingzun was completely devoted to her, not to mention the mere ghost region, the 3,000 continents would be hers. Just as Princess Mayen was scheming, she heard Xingzun coldly say, "Let alone the fact that I would never give you the thing, even if I really gave it to you, I would not want it now." Princess Mayen was so angry that her face was twisted. Even though the Lord was cold in the past, he wouldn't speak so harshly. How did he become like this now? He Xingjiu burst into laughter and said with a grin, "Old witch, did you hear that? My Prince Charming is annoying you to death. Stop daydreaming. In my opinion, it's a waste of resources for a shameless person like you to live. You might as well kill yourself." Princess Mayen said coldly, "My lord, I originally didn't plan to go to the extreme due to old feelings, but since you're so heartless, I don't have anything to worry about anymore." Xingzun's voice was cold. "To tell you the truth, I've already set up the life exterminating array in the ghost region. Once my life is lost, the life exterminating array will automatically open. At that time, the ghost region will become an Azura field." Princess Mayan's words immediately caused a commotion. They did not doubt the possibility of Princess Mayan's words at all, because Princess Mayen was sinister and vicious. She could indeed do such a thing. He Xingjiu narrowed her eyes and said with a chuckle, "Old witch, didn't you already say that the life exterminating array will only be activated when your life is in danger? Then it'll capture you and cut you into 1,000 pieces. It'll just keep you alive. Don't you think it's very interesting?" Chapter 4465, Red Pearl. Princess Mayen was so angry that she almost died. "Interesting? This wretched girl was really detestable to the extreme," she said coldly. "Although I'm not your Majesty's match, it's still easy for me to escape. Your Majesty, today you can either kill this slut by your side and marry me, or you can watch the destruction of the ghost region." Xiao Wuhan and the others looked at the Lord nervously. The Lord wouldn't really agree to Princess Mayan's request, would he? However, if he didn't agree, wouldn't the ghost realm be finished? It was too difficult to make a decision. Only the Lord and He Xingjiu didn't show any signs of worry or nervousness among the others, including Xingzun and He Xingjiu. He Xingjiu was sure that the gigolo wouldn't hurt her under any circumstances, so she naturally wouldn't show any signs of nervousness. Time seemed to slow down. Finally, everyone heard the Lord's cold voice, "I will never be threatened by anyone. Moreover, a person like you would not be willing to use your life to activate the life exterminating array. Even if you really activate the life exterminating array, I have enough power to protect the person you want to protect. You can do whatever you want." Princess Mayen did not expect the Lord to say this even in her dreams. For a moment she was stunned. At this moment, the Lord's figure flashed and appeared in front of Princess Mayen in the blink of an eye. His right hand grabbed Princess Mayen's neck. Princess Mayen's face was full of fear. She didn't expect that the Lord's intention was to distract her, and the real purpose was to hit the target with one strike. Xingzun, who was standing in front of Princess Mayen, was stunned. He Xingjiu was so proud of himself. Her pretty boy not only had a face but also a plan, but this old hag also wanted to threaten him? What wishful thinking. She took out a dagger and rubbed it against Princess Mayen's face. "Tell me the location of the extermination array and the method to break it, and it'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, it'll cut you into 1,000 pieces." "Bitch, how dare you? If you force me, I'll bite my tongue and kill myself. All of you will die," Princess Mayen said in exasperation. Yun Chujio smiled even more brightly. "Old witch, don't you know that biting off your tongue won't kill you? Why don't you try it?" Princess Mayen gnashed her teeth in hatred and turned to the Lord. "My lord, you won't let this bitch mess around, right? I know I'm wrong. As long as you let me go, I'll destroy the life exterminating array myself and find a place to live in seclusion. For the sake of our past friendship, please spare me." Princess Mayen's voice was mournful and charming, with a few drops of tears on her face. Even Xiao Wuhan and the others could not bear to see it. He Xingjiu slashed her face with a dagger. "You old witch, you still want to seduce my man at this time? How shameless you are. Tui, how powerful do you think your seduction technique is? Even AOG was not successfully seduced by you, and you still want to seduce my Prince Charming? You overestimate yourself. AOG, who did he offend? Why did he have to bring him along every time? He also wanted to save face, all right?" Princess Mayen was in pain and annoyed. Her eyes fell on the red bead hanging on her neck, and the words that man had said flashed across her mind. She gritted her teeth. Her soul consciousness moved and the bead broke. Almost at the same time, Yun Chujio screamed miserably. She turned into several purple light dots, condensing into her original appearance. However, what she condensed was just an illusion. Moreover, the color was light as if it would disappear at any moment. Chapter 4466. The rootless man. Di Biming's head buzzed. He had already restrained Princess Mayan's elemental energy and divine sense. Why was she still able to cause the red bead on her neck to crack? He did not have the time to investigate this now. A burst of icy air overflowed from his hand. Princess Mayan felt that the blood in her entire body seemed to have frozen. The bone-piercing pain made her cry out in pain. Tell me, why did little Jiao become like this? Sheng Zun's voice was so cold that there was not the slightest bit of warmth. Ha 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 ha, that person is indeed right. The woman beside you is indeed a rootless person. After 49 days she will completely disappear and there will be no possibility of resurrection. Sheng Zun, I have always been deeply in love with you, but you have repeatedly ignored me. This is karma. This bitch is about to die completely. No matter how capable you are, you can only watch as she dissipates bit by bit. Sheng Zun, do you regret treating me like that now? Aha, it's a pity that it's too late. This bitch is dead for sure. Princess Mayan said in a crazed manner. Although Di Biming wanted to kill her with a single slap, he still needed her to ask for useful information, so he could only send out a bit of cold air. The Lord ignored Princess Mayan's scream and asked with a trembling voice, Little Jiao, how are you? Sheng Zun asked. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. If it were not for his negligence, little Jiao would not have become like this. He had let little Jiao down. Yin Chujio was so smart. She naturally understood what the Lord was thinking. She said with a smile, I think it's okay. My body is as light as a swallow. Prince Charming, don't worry. I've always been lucky. I've always been able to turn misfortune into luck and fortune. Who knows, I might even have some unexpected gains this time. How could the Lord not know that Yun Chujio was consoling him? Just as he was about to interrogate Princess Mayan, he saw Aog rush in front of Princess Mayan like a madman and slap her a few times. Slut. If you don't tell me how to save little Jiao today, I will use the secret arts of the Yen clan to make you beg for death. Not only will I make your body rot inch by inch, I will also make your spiritual sense suffer from the burning pain. Aoj's action not only stunned Princess Mayan, but also the others. The Lord and Ing Qingluo were a couple. It was one thing for him to be anxious, but why did Aog look even more anxious than the Lord? Was he trying to steal a woman from Sheng Zun? Princess Mayan was stunned for a moment, then spat out a mouthful of blood and laughed crazily. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that all of you would be mesmerized by this slut. Good, very good. This is your retribution. Want to save her? It's not impossible. As long as you enter the 10,000 ghost lair and get the soul gathering pearl, you can save this slut. But do you dare to go? Ha ha. The Lord frowned. He did not dare to perform a soul search on Princess Mayan, because if someone had placed a restriction on her soul consciousness, one soul search would kill Princess Mayan. Then he would not be able to get any useful clues. He glanced at Aog, whose eyes were red and felt somewhat complicated. He said indifferently, Aog, you used the secret technique of the Yen clan to force her to tell who exactly told her how to use the red pearl and where the life extermination array was set up. Aog immediately used the secret technique of the Yen clan on Princess Mayan. Princess Mayan laughed shrilly. Do you think you can force me to tell the truth? Dream on. You will never know the truth, and this bitch is dead for sure. What I, Mayan, cannot get, no one else can. Chapter 4467. Soul Gathering Pearl. Aog was furious, but he did not dare to really kill Princess Mayan, lest he missed the way to save Yun Chujio. At this time Yun Chujio floated in front of Princess Mayan. Old witch, do you think you have won? Princess Mayan stared at Yun Chujio maliciously. Although I did not get what I wanted, at least I made you lose your life. It was worth it. Yun Chujio chuckled. It's a pity that you're destined to be disappointed. I'm just lucky. Otherwise, that person wouldn't have spent so much effort to set me up. Not to mention your little tricks, even Tian Dao wouldn't be able to take my life. Not only will I live, but he'll also live well. Don't you feel that you're very pitiful? You don't have anyone by your side who is sincere to you. Everyone wants you to die. You have no family, no lover, and even less friends. What do you want? Even if you control the ghost realm, even if you control the dark continent, even if you control the 3,000 continents, what do you want? Power? Even if you have supreme power, do you think that you can obtain family, friendship, and love? You are destined to be a pitiful worm who is despised by others. Princess Mayin was obviously hit by Yun Chujia's words, and her face became even paler and twisted. She gritted her teeth and said, "So what if what you said is right? At least when I was alive, I enjoyed it freely. As for whether it was heartless or not, they are all illusory things. I don't care. You don't have to be stubborn. The 10,000 Ghost Lair is an Azura battlefield. There is no going back. TSK, aren't you and Xingzun in love? Isn't love stronger than gold? Then let's see if he will break into the 10,000 Ghost Lair for you. Let's see if he will be willing to sacrifice his life for you." Yun Chujio laughed lightly again. "Old witch, my Prince Charming is the Xingzun who disagrees with heaven and earth. What is a mere 10,000 Ghost Lair? He can definitely help me get the soul-gathering pearl." Princess Mayin saw the smile on Yun Chujia's face and felt that it was particularly eye-catching. She said fiercely, "A 10,000 Ghost Lair? Aren't you afraid that your words will hurt your tongue? To tell you the truth, the life extermination array is set up in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. Moreover, there are more than 10,000 evil spirits brought by the ghost ancestor in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. If you go there, you will die without a burial place." Yun Chujio smiled brightly. "Old witch, thank you for telling me so much. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know that the life extermination array is in the 10,000 Ghost Lair." Princess Mayin almost fainted from anger. No wonder this wretched girl was flirting with her. It turned out that she had other motives. She had been tricked again. "Prince Charming, I reckon that she won't be able to say anything useful. Just search her soul and find as many as you can," Yun Chujio said indifferently. Princess Mayin knew that she wouldn't be able to escape death, so she didn't beg for mercy. She only screamed and scolded, "Slut, even if I die, you won't be able to live. You are a rootless person. You will never have a good ending in your lifetime. You are destined to be alone. The people around you will also be dragged down by you. They will not have a good ending." Princess Mayin's words stopped abruptly because Di Biming had already started to search her soul. Unfortunately, before she could get any useful clues, Princess Mayin died with blood flowing out of her 7 orifices. Di Biming looked at Yun Chujio and his heart clenched. He saw Yun Chujio curled up into a ball and her entire body was trembling. He quickly walked over and wanted to pull her into his embrace. However, his hand passed through Yun Chujio's body and only then did he remember that she was only an illusion now. Chapter 4468, Do You Trust Me? Yun Chujio raised her head and looked at Di Biming with a dazed expression. "Prince Charming, is what she said true? Am I really a rootless person? Will I really never have a good ending? Will I really be destined to be alone? Will the people around me also be dragged down by me and never have a good ending?" Di Biming's heart felt as if it had been crushed by someone. He felt that he was really useless, repeatedly asking people to hurt her. If he had known earlier he would have killed Princess Mayin, he would not have let little Jiu fall into the inner demons again. At this moment, Yun Chujio's soul was severely damaged, and her will was easily affected by words. In addition, in her previous life, she was abandoned by her biological parents who valued sons over daughters. She had never opened this knot in her heart. In her previous life, other than Yun Chi, she did not have any relatives or friends. Moreover, Yun Chi broke up with her boyfriend because of her, so she always felt guilty. In this life, although the Yun family of Qingxian continent treated her well, she still did not enjoy the warmth of her biological parents. Ever since Di Biming met her, in order to save her, he had risked his life many times and almost lost his life many times. Could it be that he was dragged down by her? "Little Jiu, listen to me. I don't know if you are a rootless person, but there is one thing I am sure of. From now on, I will always be by your side. No matter if it's heaven or earth, I will always be with you. No matter how dangerous the future is, I will always be with you. Do you trust me?" The Lord said slowly and firmly. Yun Chujio looked into the Lord's eyes. Other than her reflection, there was also a burning affection in Xingzun's eyes. Many images of the two of them getting along flashed in her mind. Her helpless heart seemed to have someone to rely on, and then it sank into darkness. When Yun Chujio regained consciousness again, she realized that she was still in the same place. However, the others had disappeared, and only Di Biming was guarding her by the side. Seeing that she had woken up, Di Biming asked anxiously, "Little Jiu, you're awake? Is there anything wrong?" Yun Chujio stretched lazily, "It's all right. I just feel that I don't have much strength." Di Biming saw that her expression was normal and knew that she had already overcome her inner demons. However, his heart was not at ease at all. A trace of worry flashed across Di Biming's eyes. Although he did not know what was going on with Yun Chujio, the color of her figure seemed to have faded after she fell into a deep sleep. He could not let her fall into a deep sleep again. Little Jio, we will rush to the 10,000 ghost lair immediately. Di Biming knew that there was no time to delay. He had to seize the time to obtain the soul-gathering pearl. Yun Chujio nodded. She had not lived long enough. Naturally, she had to take a gamble. Prince Charming, where are the others? What happened after that? She asked curiously. Di Biming said faintly, those guards and direct descendants of Princess Meiyan are all dead. The related matters will be temporarily handled by the real Princess Meiyan and Sha Wuhan. You don't have to care about them anymore. If they can't even clean up the mess, then they are not worth your nurturing anymore. Yun Chujio nodded. What about AOG and those soldiers from the Yen clan? He'll have them temporarily set up camp outside the Imperial City to help Sha Wuhan and the others hold down the fort. Once the situation stabilizes, they will leave. Yun Chujio saw that there was nothing to worry about here, so she drifted along with Di Biming as they prepared to leave the Imperial Palace. They had just drifted some distance away when they saw the short and fat man commanding the Imperial Guards. Chapter 4469, What are you all afraid of? The short and fat man and the royal guards immediately knelt on the ground. If one looked closely, they would find that those people were all trembling. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. What did it mean? What were these people afraid of? Although the pretty boy was the lord, it was not to the extent that he made them so afraid, right? Second brother, I am going to follow my Prince Charming to the Myriad Ghosts cave. You should assist big brother well. Also, there are some things that need to be thought of from a different perspective. Don't miss out on a good marriage opportunity, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Although the short and fat man didn't quite understand the meaning behind Yun Chujio's words, his eyes were red. He said with a sobbing voice, Little Jio, you will definitely recover. Second brother is waiting for you here. Second brother will prepare a lot of delicious food for you. You must come back. Yun Chujio said with a light smile, Don't worry. I'm still waiting to drink second brother's wedding wine. When the short fatty heard this, his eyes turned even redder and he almost burst into tears. He did not care how Little Jio's appearance changed, nor did he care about her true identity. He also did not care about the words of someone who had no roots. He only knew that this was his sister, a sister that was even closer to him than his own sister. The short fatty used almost all of his strength and courage to look at Di Biming. He gritted his teeth and said, Your Excellency, although I don't have the right to say anything to you, Little Jio has been entrusted to you. I hope that you can return safely. Di Biming hummed and motioned for Yun Chujio to leave. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, Prince Charming, wait for me in front. I have some private matters to discuss with second brother. Di Biming naturally would not go against Yun Chujio's wishes. He immediately walked to a distance and waited for her. Second brother, tell me the truth. What are you guys afraid of? Are you afraid of me, this so-called rootless person? Yun Chujio asked in confusion. Pui? 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 Little Jio, don't listen to that old witch Meiyan spout nonsense. If it wasn't for you, we brothers would still be starving and freezing. How would we have such a good life now? So you don't have to take her words to heart. We aren't afraid of you but of your excellency. The short and fat man glanced at a certain lord in the distance and said in a low voice. Afraid of him? Although he is the lord of the Yen clan, he shouldn't make you so afraid, right? Yun Chujio said in puzzlement. The short and fat man hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, Little Jio, we are blood-related siblings, so I won't hide it from you. You really don't know. After you fell into a deep sleep yesterday, Your Excellency went on a killing spree. Princess Maiyan's guards and direct descendants were turned into corpses in an instant. It was like a river of blood. Only then did Yun Chujio realize that there were many palaces in her original place. It seemed that they were all ruins after she woke up. It turned out that it was caused by the gigolo's outburst. Seeing that Yun Chujio was in a daze, the short and fat man quickly said, Little Jio, although your majesty is a little cruel, it's also because he cares about you. Otherwise he wouldn't have gone on a killing spree. Yun Chujio nodded. Second brother, I understand. Since there's nothing else, I'll leave. You should think about what I said to you. Without waiting for the short and fat man to reply, Hei Shinjio floated away. The short and fat man wiped his tears. He was thinking about what Yun Chujio said while instructing the Imperial Guards to continue with their work. Yun Chujio floated to Di Biming's side and smiled. Prince Charming, let's go. Well, go get the soul-gathering pearl and meet those evil spirits. Chapter 44. Little follower Aog. Di Biming nodded his head. The two of them left the imperial city and headed towards the 10,000 ghost lair. The people of the ghost region could not ride a sword to fly, unless they rode on a flying primordial bird. Although Di Biming was an exception, Yun Chujio could only float forward in her current state. Otherwise, Di Biming would not have allowed her to sleep on the spot and not move her. After the two of them left the imperial city for a distance, Di Biming stopped and said coldly, "Come out." Yun Chujio was stunned and turned around. She saw a figure flash out from behind a tree in the distance. It was the crown prince of the Yen clan Aog. Aog's back was straight, but his expression was stiff. It was obvious that he was afraid of Di Biming. Aog walked in front of the two of them and his gaze fell on Yun Chujio. Almost instantly, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He knew that Di Biming had released his pressure on him. He said with difficulty, "I am also responsible for little Jio's condition, so I want to go to the Myriad Ghosts cave with you. Although my cultivation level is not as high as yours, I know some secret techniques of the Yen clan. I might be able to help you." Yun Chujio was about to refuse, but Di Biming said, "Then let's go together." Hei Xingjiu looked at Di Biming in surprise. Why didn't this jealousy flare up today? If it was in the past, Aog would have been sent flying with a slap. She did not know that now that Di Biming was worried about her situation, it was naturally good to have more help. Although he was the lord of the Yen clan, he was not from the Yen clan. Bringing Aog along with Shengzun might be helpful. When Aog saw Di Biming nod his head in agreement, he was naturally extremely happy. When he found out that Ying Qingluo was Yun Chujio, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. If he had known that she was little Jiao, he would not have colluded with Princess Meiyan to force her step by step. If he had known that she was little Jiao, he would have. What should he have done? Snatch her or strike first? All of this was in vain because she was the saint's woman. He could not snatch her away. The only thing he could do now was to help little Jiao find the soul-gathering pearl and make her bright and lively again. Di Biming had always been quiet. Now that Aog had joined in, he did not say much. Aog had a lot of questions to ask Yun Chujio, but because Di Biming did not dare to ask, neither of them said anything. Yun Chujio originally could not stay idle, but now she felt very tired. After talking to the short and fat man for a while, she felt sleepy, and now she was just forcing herself to not fall asleep. Di Biming saw Yun Chujio's listless look and was afraid that she would fall asleep again, so he could only think of a topic. Unfortunately, he was not a person who was good at small talk. After a long time, he finally thought of a topic and asked, "Little Jiao, what happened after I left? Little Jiao, tell me what happened after I left?" Yun Chujio also knew that Di Biming was afraid that she would fall asleep, so she forced herself to tell him everything that had happened in the past few days. Di Biming did not have much of a reaction. On the contrary, Aog kept exclaiming and praising. He was so engrossed in it that he even forgot that there was a fiend beside him. He blurted out, "Little Jiao, you are indeed the woman that I have taken a fancy to. You are indeed very smart." Aog had also finished speaking. He also felt an icy cold aura enveloping him. He lowered his head embarrassedly. He was not worthy of such a dazzling woman. Perhaps only a man like Shengzun could be worthy of her. Chapter 4471 will be destroyed. Yun Chujio saw that Aog was really sad, so she could only change the topic. "Prince Charming, now that I have become like this, where did Buttface and the others go? Could they be dead already?" She tried to summon the big brick, but there was no response. She tried to communicate with Guai Chao and the other foodies, but there was no response, and Buttface was nowhere to be found. At this moment, Yun Chujio heard a voice that seemed to come from far away in her mind. "Xiaoxianzi, you quickly come save us." Yun Chujio wanted to listen again, but she couldn't hear anything. She frowned. From the sound of it, it seemed that Dog 2 and the others were trapped somewhere. However, these scammers were all perverts. Where exactly were they trapped? A trace of worry flashed across Di Biming's eyes. "Little Jiao, the most important thing now is to find the soul-gathering pearl first. Then, we will think of a way to find out more about them. Moreover, they all have their own peculiarities. Nothing will happen to them." Yun Chujio had a hunch that Di Biming was hiding something from her. However, Aog was here, so it was inappropriate for her to ask. She did not even ask where he had gone before. Even though Yun Chujio tried her best not to fall into a deep sleep, she still fell into a deep sleep after drifting for a while. Di Biming wanted to hold her in his arms, but in the end, he helplessly let go of her. He had no way to touch Yun Chujio now, let alone hold her in his arms. He could only stare at the sleeping shadow, his face very gloomy. Aoji was also very anxious. He kept spinning on the ground until he was stared at by Di Biming. He gathered his courage and asked, "Your Excellency, do you have a way to break the formation of destruction?" Di Biming shook his head. "No. Then what should we do? It is said that the formation of destruction is the first evil formation. If we can't break it, it will turn into blood," Aoji said worriedly. "Just destroy it," Di Biming said faintly. "Destroy? Destroy? Just destroy it?" Aoji thought about these words several times. What did the Lord mean? Did he mean to destroy the formation of destruction? Did he hear wrong? That was the formation of destruction. It was not some low-level small formation. How could it be destroyed? However, he saw that Di Biming's expression did not look like he was joking. However, it was also true that the Lord would not joke with him. So what he said was true. The last bit of pride in Aoja's heart instantly disappeared without a trace. Compared to such a pervert, it was already good enough that he did not feel inferior. Where was the slightest bit of pride? Yun Chujio's coma this time was 2 hours longer than the last time. Di Biming's mood became increasingly heavy. It seemed that if little Jiu fell into a coma again, the time would be longer and longer. In this way they did not have enough time to get the soul-gathering pearl. They could not let her fall asleep again no matter what. Therefore when they passed by a town, Di Biming left for a while. When Yun Chujio was sleepy again, a certain lord took out a set of clothes and threw it to Aoji. "Go to the forest next door and change into this set of clothes." Aoji was flattered. His honored master was actually concerned about his clothes? However, it was also true. He had been in a terrible mood these days, so he had been wearing the clothes from before. It was indeed a little dirty. However, when Aoja's gaze fell on the clothes, he was instantly dumbfounded. Your honored master, isn't this a woman's outfit?" Chapter 4472, Would you like to try on this set of clothes? Di Biming said faintly, "Yes." Aoji stretched his neck and waited for a long time, but Di Biming did not say anything else. Aoji was even more confused. What did yes mean? Was he deliberately messing with him? Was he trying to humiliate him with women's clothes? Aoji suddenly felt a surge of anger rise in his heart. A soldier could be killed but not humiliated. Although he could not beat him, he could not let him do as he pleased. He raised his head and was about to fly into a rage when he saw Di Biming looking at Yun Chujio, who was trying her best to resist the drowsiness with a worried expression. He immediately understood Di Biming's intention. He gritted his teeth and carried his clothes into the forest next to him. Aoji was cursing in his heart as he changed his clothes. Although the Lord was powerful, his aesthetic standards were really not that good. Didn't he know that red and green matched each other's bullshit? This color match was really bright and blinding. Aoji had to muster his courage for his entire life before he walked out of the forest. Hei Shinjio, who was originally drowsy, saw Aoji's style and instantly laughed her head off. "Haha Aoji, you are really too beautiful." Ah. Although Aoji was a little embarrassed, when he saw that Yun Chujio was smiling happily and no longer looked drowsy like before, he sighed in his heart. Forget it, there was a limit to what he could do. Being able to help her get rid of her drowsiness was already considered not bad. Because of Aoji's cross-dressing, Yun Chujio's sleepiness temporarily disappeared. She thought in her heart. She originally thought that Aoji only treated her as it's good if you can't get it. She did not expect Aoji to be sincere to her. In that case she could help him more in the future. In the next 2 days, Aoji also went all out. Not only was he wearing cross-dressing, but he also deliberately spoke at his throat to make Yun Chujio happy. Yun Chujio was often teased until she fell back and forth, and her sleepiness also dissipated a lot. However, as time passed, Aoji's women's clothing had lost its attraction to Yun Chujio, and she fell asleep again. Aoji had a big red flower on his head, and he wore a green brocade dress. He said with a sad face, "Your Excellency, my women's clothing is of no use anymore, but it's still far from the ghost realm. What should we do? If little Gio is still asleep, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the 10,000 Ghost Cave 49 days ago. Why don't you try on this outfit of mine?" Aoji subconsciously took a few steps back after he said that. He would never admit that he had the intention to take revenge. Why was he the only one who embarrassed himself? Didn't he say that he would do anything for little Jiu? Then why did he only ask him to dress up as a woman and not him? Beiming glanced at Aog. That emotionless look almost scared Aog to the point of fainting. Just when Aog thought that Beiming was going to slap him to death, he heard him say indifferently, "Take it off." Aog was stunned. He reacted for a long time before he understood what Beiming meant. Was he going to wear it? A moment later, Beiming walked out of the forest in a green brocade dress with a big red flower on his head. Beiming did not look embarrassed at all. He walked slowly to Aog. Aog's mouth was wide open in surprise. The Lord was dressed as comically as him before, but why did he not find it funny? Why did he think that he was arrogant and cool? Was this the legendary aura? Well, even if he didn't want to, he could only admit that some people could wear brocade clothes even if they were wearing rags. Some people couldn't hide their dignity even if they tried their best to be ugly. Chapter 4473 was something that little Jiu could not bear to part with. Beiming did not look at Aog. Instead, he sat on the ground and began to cultivate. Aog stared at the big red flower on Beiming's head. Damn it, it looked like a matchmaker on his head. Why did it feel like a crown on Xingzun's head? What the fuck? A few hours later, Yun Chujio finally woke up. She looked at the two of them in a daze and finally, her gaze fell on Beiming. Aog was gloating in his heart. In a while, little Jiu would burst out laughing. Let's see how calm he is. Timim, let's see how long he can pretend. However, he never expected Yun Chujio to not laugh when she saw Beiming's strange appearance. Instead, she said with a sobbing tone, "Prince Charming, what are you doing? You are not Aog. You can't ruin yourself just to make me happy. I will be very sad when I see you like this." Aog, does he not care about his face? Is it really good for you to treat me so differently? Thinking about it, Aog was also the #1 beauty of the Yen clan. How could he ruin him so easily? Beiming shot a glance at Aog, then walked to a hidden place and changed his clothes. Aog felt that that glance was like a slap on his face. Beiming's meaning was self-evident. It was not that he could not bear to part with his face and pretend to be a woman, but it was that little Jiu could not bear to part with it. The last bit of hope that Aog had for Yun Chujio was now completely gone. He knew that no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he fawned, he could not replace the position of the Lord in Yun Chujio's heart. He only had one goal now, and that was to help little Jiu obtain the Soul Gathering Pearl. Then he would go back and become the crown prince of the Yen clan. If it was not his, it would not be his in the end. In the next few days, Aog was even more miserable. In order to prevent Yun Chujio from falling asleep, Beiming recalled every single detail from the time they had met until now. Xingzhou was beaming from ear to ear. Aog was about to be tortured like a dog. Who had he offended? Wasn't it just a woman that he had fallen in love with? Was there a need to torture him in such a way? He simply did not want to live anymore. However, when he looked at Yun Chujio's smiling face, his little heart was still like a happy little rabbit. This kind of woman was different from the ones he had seen before. She had left a fresh mark on his heart. He was afraid that he would never be able to erase it in this lifetime. They walked and stopped. On this day, the three of them finally arrived at the Desolation Desert, where the legendary 10,000 Ghost Lair was located. Aog had done a lot of preparations before. He took out a map and said, "The 10,000 Ghost Lair is in the deepest part of the Desolate Desert. If we want to reach the 10,000 Ghost Lair, we have to cross the Desolate Desert. It is rumored that there are many brutal origin beasts in the Desolate Desert. These origin beasts only live in the Desolate Desert. They are nourished by the evil spirit aura in the 10,000 Ghost Lair, so they are extremely brutal. Little Jiu, when the time comes, you will follow behind me and I will protect you." Beiming glanced at him indifferently, and Aog immediately felt a little embarrassed. With this fiend around, how could it be his turn to perform? The three of them made some adjustments and entered the Desolation Desert. Although it was called the Desolation Desert, there were still scattered shrubs and short plants. It was unknown whether it was because the aura of the Lord was too strong, but they did not encounter a single origin beast even after walking for dozens of miles. Xingzhou asked Aog with a smile, "Didn't you say that there were many ferocious origin beasts? Where are they? It's been a long time since I've seen a cute little girl who dares to go against me." Aog, he did not want to talk now, really? Chapter 4474, The Lord. After walking for dozens of miles, a 30 feet tall origin beast finally appeared. Its huge figure left a huge shadow on the ground. Aog saw this origin beast and felt a strange joy in his heart. Fuck, there was finally one. Otherwise, little Nine would think that he was exaggerating. Aog immediately raised his voice and pointed at the origin beast. Little Nine, this is the unique bloodthirsty ghost mammoth of the Desolation Desert. Its fur can turn into sharp arrows to attack the enemy. In addition, due to its huge size, its strength is boundless. A single claw can send dozens of people flying. It is rumored that dozens of Ghost Clan experts once besieged a bloodthirsty ghost mammoth, but in the end they all died. So, in a moment, Aog's words came to an abrupt end, because the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth that he had bragged about was already lying on the ground, trembling like a fallen leaf in the wind. Yes, a big fallen leaf. It was also very miserable. If it knew that there was a malefic star here, it would not have come out to court death. Was it too late to regret now? Hei Shinjo looked at the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth a few times, and then asked Aog in puzzlement, Aog, didn't you say that the origin beasts here are very fierce? Why is this one so polite? And it even knelt down and worshipped us? Aog, the vampire mammoth, what the hell was that worshipping? It was forced by a tremendous pressure, alright? Beiming said indifferently, let's go. We must hurry. Therefore, the three of them bypassed the shivering vampire mammoth and continued their journey. Hei Shinjo said regretfully, if it weren't for the fact that I can't condense a real body right now, I would ride that vampire mammoth for a stroll no matter what. Just thinking about it makes me feel awe-inspiring. Beiming curled his lips and said, when we get the soul-gathering pearl, it'll help you catch one and take you around the desert of desolation. Hearing that, the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth shivered even more violently. It made up its mind that it would stay in the nest from now on and never show off again. Aog did not want to talk now. He felt like a fool following the two perverts. After a moment, Aog finally could not help but say, Little Gyo, Your Excellency, do you see the glaring red in the distance? That's the Nirvana ghost ants. Even a behemoth like the bloodthirsty ghost mammoth would not dare to provoke the Nirvana ghost ants. The toxins they secrete can turn a bloodthirsty ghost mammoth into a pile of bones in an instant. Moreover, it seems that the Nirvana ghost ants in the distance are a large group. Why don't we take a detour? Beiming ignored him and continued to walk forward at a moderate pace. Hei Shinjo said uninterestedly while floating, are these the ferocious primeval beasts you were talking about? Aren't they just a bunch of ants? It's really not challenging at all. Aog quickly retorted, Little Gyo, don't underestimate those Nirvana ghost ants. Apart from secreting toxins, they also have a pair of sharp forelegs. They are very ferocious, aren't they? Aog swallowed his words back because a large group of Nirvana ghost ants had instantly fled like a tide, and they were the ones that fled in panic. Some of the old, young, sick and disabled ants that did not have time to escape directly dived into the sand. Aog, it was not that the origin beasts were not ferocious, but that the Lord was too abnormal. Hei Shinjo was also somewhat puzzled. Although the pretty boy was powerful, it seemed that he was much more powerful than other places in the Dark Continent and the Ghost Domain. What was going on? Chapter 4475 was not well written. Aog did not say anything when he saw the origin beast. It would be a slap in the face anyway, so it was better to pretend to be dumb. The origin beasts he saw along the way all fled when he saw the three of them. A few of them did not escape, but they only watched from afar and did not dare to approach the three of them. Aog felt like he was dreaming. He even suspected that he had entered a fake desolation desert. What happened to the dangerous situation? What happened to never coming back? How come he didn't even have the chance to make a move along the way? What a grievance. 2 days later, the three of them arrived at the Myriad Ghosts cave smoothly. Yun Chujio saw 3 huge ancient characters on the cliff wall and burst into laughter. Who wrote these characters? Why is it uglier than mine? Beiming and Aog looked up. The 3 characters on the cliff wall were written in a crooked way. It was indeed not good. Aog coughed dryly and said, it is said that this was written by the ghost ancestor himself. Yun Chujio exclaimed, didn't you say that this is the Myriad Spirit Cave? Why is it written here? Aog explained, originally this place was indeed called the Myriad Spirit Cave. However, because the evil spirits here were too ferocious, everyone called it the Myriad Spirit Cave. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. You've always said that it was an evil spirit. What the hell is an evil spirit? It's rumored that the ghost ancestor brought countless remnant souls from other continents back then. Due to various reasons they were unable to reincarnate. If it wasn't for the ghost ancestor bringing them to the ghost territory, these remnant souls would have turned into ashes. However, after the ghost ancestor released those remnant souls, he realized that some of them were unable to form a physical body, so he placed them in the 10,000 Spirits Cave. As there were 5 soul-gathering pearls left by the ghost ancestor in the 10,000 ghost lair, those remnant souls would slowly form a physical body after absorbing the energy from the soul-gathering pearls. During this period, some people had designs on those soul-gathering pearls. However, those who entered the 10,000 ghost lair would never return. As time passed, the 10,000 ghost lair was also known as the 10,000 ghost lair by everyone. Yun Chujio nodded. No wonder the ghost clansmen were very respectful towards the ghost ancestor. If there was no ghost ancestor, there would not be the present ghost territory. Then where did the ghost ancestor go? Yun Chujio asked curiously. I don't know. There are no records about it in the various books of the ghost clan. It's as if the ghost ancestor disappeared into thin air, Aog said. Yun Chujio thought of the spirit souls summoned by the ghost clan members. She felt that the ghost ancestor's disappearance seemed to be related to those spirit souls. Just as she was about to ask more questions, a black mist began to spread in the surroundings. The black fog transformed into the appearance of evil ghosts and pounced towards the 3 of them. Aog cried out in surprise, the life extermination array. We actually stepped into the life extermination array without realizing it. As Aog spoke, he released his nightmare aura to resist the black fog, preventing Yun Chujio and him from being attacked by the black fog. As for a certain one HMP, wasn't he powerful? Then he would deal with it himself. He even bragged about destroying it. Did he really think that the life extermination array was a joke? If he did not know how to break it, it would be almost impossible to destroy the life extermination array with brute force. The nightmare aura that Aog released blocked a few evil ghosts that were formed by the black fog. He shouted at Hai Shinjio, Little Gio, my nightmare aura can deal with these evil ghosts. You must stay close to me so that you won't be attacked by these evil ghosts. However, he did not hear a response. He turned around and his nose almost went crooked from anger. Chapter 4476. Black evil spirits D. Biming and Yun Chujio were standing there perfectly fine. No one knew what D. Biming had done. The evil spirits formed by the black fog had no way of getting close to them. Aog saw Yun Chujio turn her head to look at him and gloated, Aog, you don't have to care about me anymore. You have to pray for yourself. Be careful not to lose your life. Aog felt wronged. In front of this pervert, Shengzun, he had been beaten into a pulp. The so-called opportunity to show off was simply a disgrace. Aog vented his anger on those evil spirits and used his nightmare chi to kill them. At first it was fine, but as time passed Aog could not hold on any longer. No matter how powerful he was, he could not deal with the endless black fog ghosts. What made him most angry was that D. Biming had been standing there and did not move at all, allowing him to be attacked by those evil ghosts. He thought carefully, no wonder the Lord agreed to let him come with them. It turned out that he was looking for an opportunity to kill Shengzun. How cunning. He was too naive to think that the Lord was a generous person. Bah. So he was a cunning person. What made him even sadder was that Yun Chujio kept smiling at him without any intention of attacking him. She was too cold-blooded. Even though he had been wearing women's clothes for a few days, he should not have left him to die. He felt a chill in his heart. Although he did not expect Yun Chujio to take him seriously, at least she was better than a stranger, right? She actually watched him struggle with all his might without helping him. It was too disappointing. At this moment, he heard Yun Chujio clapping her hands and said, Aog, how can a person like you dream of marrying me? You really want to eat swan meat? Why don't you look in the mirror? How can a coward like you be worthy of me? Compared to my Prince Charming, you are like the sky and the earth. You really overestimate yourself and are shameless. Aog looked at Yun Chujio in disbelief. He did not expect Yun Chujio to say such heartless words. For a moment he felt that everything had become meaningless and his hands slowed down. Anyway, he was going to die sooner or later, so he would die. A black evil spirit pounced on him ferociously. He closed his eyes. He would end his life like this. Of course he was unwilling, but what could he do? He walked the path on his own. However, the pain that he imagined did not come. Instead, he heard Yun Chujio's fierce voice, Aog, is there something wrong with your head? Hurry up and help Prince Charming break the formation. What are you mumbling about with your eyes closed? Aog opened his eyes and was surprised to find that there was no black evil spirit around him. Yun Chujio was scolding him with her hands on her hips while Di Biming was attacking a barrier. The barrier trembled violently under Di Biming's attack. It would not take long for the barrier to break. Aog was a little confused. Could it be that he was hallucinating? Little Jiu, you didn't see the black evil spirits? Isn't this the life extermination array? Aog asked in confusion. Yun Chujio touched her chin. This should be inside the life extermination array. However, it seems that this life extermination array should be made up of many array formations. This should be an illusory array. Oh right, why did you mumble about how cold your heart is? Why don't you just die? What kind of illusion did you fall into? Chapter 4477. Face is like a rag. Aog stammered. No, it's nothing. It's just that there are a lot of evil spirits formed by the black fog. I'll go and help first. Shinjo was very smart. Even if Aog did not say it, she had already guessed most of it. Aog saw Yun Chujio's half-smile and became even more embarrassed. He ran over to help in a panic. Unfortunately, before he could make a move, the barrier was broken by Di Biming. Aog, why did he feel that he was not here to help? Instead, he was here to eat for free? While he was in a daze, there was a faint blue mist spreading in all directions. Aog only inhaled a little bit, and he felt his whole body become excited. He was shocked and immediately released the nightmare chi to envelop the three of them, isolating them from the blue mist. This blue mist is poisonous. What should we do next? Aog asked with a worried expression. Although the nightmare chi he released could temporarily isolate the poisonous blue mist, it wouldn't last for long. You protect little Jiu. I'll attack the barrier, Di Biming said indifferently. But the blue fog is poisonous. Aog swallowed the rest of his words. A layer of light had risen around Di Biming, so the blue fog couldn't get close to him. Aog looked at the barrier that was trembling under Di Biming's attack and comforted himself. He wasn't completely useless. At least he could pretend to be a woman and make little Jiu happy. At least he could release the nightmare chi to protect little Jiu temporarily. He was still quite useful, really. A moment later, the barrier was broken through by Di Biming again. However, when he saw the situation in the formation this time, Aog's face immediately turned red. There were countless beautiful women in the formation scratching their heads. Moreover, they were all naked beauties. Di Biming's expression did not change at all. In his eyes, these women were no different from rocks. They were not even as pretty as rocks, so he naturally did not care. Although Aog had a strong resistance to the power of charm, he still had little Jiu by his side. This was too embarrassing and annoying. At this moment he heard Yun Chujio say in disdain, even if all of you transform, you should at least transform into something good-looking. All of you are crooked and ugly, aren't you too ugly? The one with the red hairpin on her head, your figure is not even as good as Aogis, and you still have the nerve to twist around like a big bug. The one with the green earring, did you just shave your sharp face? And the little bitch on the left, your triangular eyes are still winking at Sanjiayan? If you keep winking you'll be thrown out. The second one on the left, you're even uglier than Aog. With your looks you still want to seduce others. Aog. He finally knew that in front of these two perverts, his face was like a rag long trampled under his feet. However, after Hei Xinjia's scolding, Aog's shyness was also thrown to the back of his mind. The Yen clan was originally very beautiful. The beauty of these women really did not catch his eye. It was only because Yun Chujio was by his side that he felt a little uncomfortable. After Aog's emotions calmed down, he began to attack those women. Those women who had transformed only had the power of charm and did not have much combat ability. In an instant they were all killed by Aog, turning into smoke and disappearing. Aog felt that he was awesome. He had finally performed once and was no longer so useless. Chapter 4478, Spring Breeze and Rain Formation. Although the three formations were easily dissolved, the three of them knew that this was only the beginning. The life-extinguishing formation could not be so simple. Aog suddenly exclaimed, I have no way to use the nightmare chi and spiritual power. Lord, how are you? Di Biming's expression changed slightly. My cultivation has also been restricted, less than 1%. Aog was worried, but at the same time he cursed in his heart. What a pervert. In such a huge formation that sealed his cultivation, there was still a portion of his cultivation left. Just as Aog was thinking, countless water droplets began to fall slowly. Those water droplets refracted 7 colored rays of light, looking extremely beautiful. Beiming said coldly, "This is the spring wind and rain formation. These water droplets are extremely corrosive. Be careful and avoid them." As Beiming spoke, he put up a protective shield to protect Yunchujio. As for the poor Aog, he could only rely on himself. Aog did not have any thoughts this time. Beiming only had 1% of his cultivation left to protect little Gio. Naturally, he did not have the strength to protect him. As the water droplets were not very dense and the speed of their descent was not very fast, even if Aog's cultivation was sealed, he could easily dodge them with his movement technique. However, as time passed, the speed of the water droplets' descent became faster and more dense. Aog could not dodge in time, and a water droplet landed on the hem of his clothes. Almost instantly, a large hole was corroded on the hem of his clothes, and it was still spreading. Aog did not care much and took off the entire outer garment, or else it would corrode his skin. On the other side, Beiming was not at ease either. He only had 1% of his cultivation left, and he still had to protect Yunchujio. He would not be able to hold on for long. Beiming's eyes darkened, and he took out a small bone from his sleeve pocket. Yunchujio knew that he was going to use a secret technique, so she quickly stopped him. "Wait. If you use a secret technique, not only will your cultivation decrease for a period of time, but it will also trigger the cold poison. It's best not to use it lightly. Little Gio, the situation is critical now. If I don't use a secret technique, the 3 of us will die in this spring breeze rain formation," Beiming said in a deep voice. Yunchujio blinked her eyes. "Logically speaking, I was definitely not afraid of these water droplets before. It's just that the situation now is hard to say, but it's not impossible. I'll give it a try. What if I'm not afraid of these water droplets?" "Prince Charming, don't worry. I know what to do. I'll try it with my hair. At most, it'll become bald. It's not like I haven't changed before." Beiming thought about it. If the situation turned bad, he could just turn off the protective shield. Therefore, he opened a gap in the protective shield, and Shinjio exposed the tip of her hair. Aog tried his best to avoid the water droplets while secretly cursing Beiming for being an idiot. Little Gio was already very weak since she was unable to condense a physical body, yet he actually asked her to take the risk. Pui. Sure enough, he only said it in a nice way. At the crucial moment, he had already sent little Gio away. How could anyone not be afraid of this poison? Even a thick-skinned origin beast like the bloodthirsty ghost Ma would be corroded by this water droplet. Wasn't little Gio courting death? At this moment, a water droplet fell on Xinjia's hair, and then, it disappeared. Aog felt that his eyes were playing tricks on him. This was impossible. How could it disappear all of a sudden? Then, another drop of water fell on Yunchujia's hair, and it still disappeared. Chapter 4479. Aog was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Little Gio was not a grain of sand. How did the water drop disappear? Shinjio was also dumbfounded. In the past, she could have swallowed these water drops into her dantian and fed them to the Guai Chao, but now, why did the water drop disappear when it fell on her hair? However, no matter what, as long as she was sure that she was not afraid of the water droplets, it was a good thing. At the very least, she could help the Gigolo and Aog lighten their burden. Otherwise, she would have eaten for nothing. Yun Chujio used her courage to reach out her hand, and the water droplets that landed on her hand instantly disappeared. Shinjio immediately floated out of Beiming's protective shield and began to swallow the water droplets up and down. All the water droplets that fell on Yun Chujia's body would disappear. Aog was surprised to find that the color of Yun Chujia's shadow had become darker as the number of water droplets that she devoured increased. Not only did the water droplets have no corrosive effect on her, they even had the effect of nourishing her soul? This was too unbelievable. Shinjio was in an extremely good mood. She kept flying around in the array and even boasted, "Come, give me a big basin of such venom. The more the better." She didn't know whether the venom in the array had been used up or not, but before Shinjio could eat to her heart's content, there were no more water drops. Shinjio sighed regretfully. That's it? What a pity. Aog, pervert. Without the water drops, even though Beiming's cultivation was limited, he still managed to break through the enchantment of the spring breeze and rain formation after an hour. As soon as the enchantment was broken through, the three of them heard the melodious sound of a zither. The sound of the zither was very soothing and melodious, causing them to relax involuntarily. Aog could not help but feel a little sleepy. He pinched himself and only then did he wake up a little. Yun Chujia's eyelids were a little heavy, and a heavy drowsiness assaulted her. She yawned and said, "I'm so sleepy, I'll sleep first." "Little Jiu, you can't sleep?" Di Biming shouted sternly. Although she didn't know what kind of array formation this was, if she fell asleep here she might never wake up again. Aog was still better. With the stimulation to his body he could dispel the drowsiness. However, Hei Shinjio couldn't condense a physical body now, so she could only rely on her willpower to support herself. Although Di Biming's shout made Yun Chujio wake up a little, as the sound of the zither became more and more soothing, Yun Chujia's eyes closed again. Di Biming glanced at Aog, and Aog immediately understood his intention. He took out a female outfit and began to dress up with a sad face. It's not like I haven't changed before. What's the big deal?" Aog put on a female outfit with big red flowers, and even pinched his throat to talk to make Yun Chujio happy. Although the corners of Yun Chujia's mouth twitched, she was probably used to it. Aog's female outfit was no longer attractive to her, so she closed her eyes again. Di Biming was extremely anxious and racked his brain to think of a topic. "Little Gio, what did you say before? What is the name of our child in the future? I almost forgot. Say it again." Yun Chujio yawned as she said, "The boy's name is De and the girl's name is De. They both mean number one. I can't, I'm too sleepy. I'll sleep for a while." Di Biming gritted his teeth and took off Aog's clothes and put them on himself. He imitated Aog and made Yun Chujio happy. However, it did not have much effect. Yun Chujio's eyes closed bit by bit. Chapter 4480. Who was the thick-skinned one? Seeing that Yun Chujio was about to fall into a deep sleep, Di Biming hurriedly stretched out his hands to wake her up, but his hands went through Yun Chujio's body. Aog's eyes flashed, and he had a good idea of killing two birds with one stone. He slapped at Di Biming, and Di Biming subconsciously wanted to slap Aog away, but he immediately understood Aog's intention. He withdrew the force of his palm and blocked it symbolically. Unexpectedly Aog cried out in pain, "My lord, what are you doing? Why are you trying to kill me? Little Gio, help." Although Yun Chujio was very sleepy, she still managed to open her eyes. Aog cried out even more miserably, "Little Gio, help. The Lord wants to kill me while you are sleeping. I just like you, why would he want to kill me?" Di Biming snorted, "Little Gio is my woman, not someone you can covet, so you deserve to die." Di Biming raised his hand and was about to swing it at Aog again. Aog kept screaming and moaning, asking Yun Chujio for help. Hei Shinjio yawned, "Please act professionally. I am not a 3-year-old child. How can I not see through such a childish trick?" Hei Shinjio closed her eyes again as she spoke. Di Biming glared at Aog fiercely. Aog cursed in his heart. "Am I being blamed for this? If you have the ability, think of a good way to prevent little Gio from falling asleep." Di Biming originally wanted to create the illusion that the cold poison had relapsed, but he felt that he could not fool Yun Chujio. What should he do? Even if he could make Yun Chujio sober up for a moment, he would still have time to find the source of the music. However, how could he make her stay awake? Di Biming was so anxious that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind, an extremely absurd idea. He only hesitated for a moment before he said coldly to Aog, "Turn your head away, don't look at us." Aog did not know what was wrong with Di Biming, but he did not dare to disobey, so he could only turn away. Di Biming's face was stiff as he said to Yun Chujio, "Little Gio, there are a few more scars on my body. Do you want to take a look?" Aog staggered and almost fell to the ground. Is the Lord's brain damaged? Xingzun thought. What time is it now? Why did he still let little Gio see the bloody scars? Little Gio did not even care about their fights. Why would she want to see the bloody scars? However, in the next moment he heard Hei Shinjio say happily like a rabbit, "Really? Take them off and let me see." Aog, why did he hear ecstasy and a bit of vulgarity in little Gio's voice? Just as he was thinking about it, he heard Hei Shinjio say slyly, "Sigh, it's a pity that I can only enjoy it with my eyes, but I can't get my hands on it. It's such a pity." Aog, he felt something shatter in his heart. The bright and lively image of the little fairy had instantly turned into A perverted and lascivious little scoundrel. A certain someone's face was as stiff as a stone. He didn't really take off his clothes, but it was just to attract Hei Xinjia's attention. However, if he could make little Jiao stay awake, he would do it even if he had to run away, let alone take off his shirt. This was because no matter what, face or integrity was more important than little Jiao's life. Just as he was about to take off his shirt, he heard Hei Xinjiao say faintly, "Prince Charming Aog is still here. It doesn't matter if you're thick-skinned, but I'm very shy. You'd better not take it off." A certain someone? Did you say the opposite? Who is thick-skinned? Chapter 4481 Heavenly Thunder Weapon. Hei Xinjiao naturally knew that Di Biming was being thick-skinned to keep her awake. Therefore, even though she was very sleepy, she forced herself to hold on with her will. Di Biming said to Aog, "Talk to little Jiao. He'll go break the enchantment." Aog nodded, but he subconsciously wrapped his clothes. Hei Xinjiao was so smart that she immediately understood Aog's intention. She snorted coldly, "Aog, what's wrong? Are you afraid that I will tease you?" "Diske. Don't worry, with you like this, even if you lie in front of me, I won't even look at you. It's too eye-catching." Aog, well, his face had been completely fed to the dogs. However, fortunately, Hei Xinjiao had been attacking Aog, which made his sleepiness disappear a lot. Aog glanced at Di Biming, who was attacking the barrier, from the corner of his eye. He thought to himself, what a freak. Was he not sleepy at all? An hour later, the music stopped abruptly when the barrier was broken. However, what happened next made Aog collapse on the ground. It was because the area they were in was not only covered by a tremendous pressure, but countless purple lightning bolts were floating above their heads, as if they were going to strike at any moment. Under the huge pressure, Aog struggled to speak. "It's over, we won't be able to survive. Even if we have great abilities, we won't be able to resist so many purple lightning bolts." Yun Chujiu looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. "Aog, are you out of your mind? Don't you know that I'm an expert at torturing lightning bolts? Don't you know that I'm a great killer of lightning bolts?" Aog then realized that Yun Chujiu had a heavenly thunder spirit root. However, would it work with so much heavenly thunder? Besides, she was already in such a bad shape now. Could she hold on? Could it be that the heavenly thunder dissipated after one strike? Aog was not the only one who was worried. Di Biming was also a little worried. After all, Yun Chujiu was no longer the same as before. Could she still withstand the lightning strike? Hei Xinjiao was not too sure, so she put her hair outside the protective shield. Almost as soon as Hei Xinjia's hair revealed the protective shield, several bolts of lightning struck Yun Chujiu's hair. Aog was surprised to find that after the lightning struck Hei Xinjia's hair, it disappeared. It was exactly the same as the raindrops before. Where did the lightning go? How did it disappear into thin air? At the same time, Hei Xinjia's figure turned darker than before. Hei Xinjiao left the protective shield and started to devour the purple lightning like a diligent bee. This guy felt that it was a pity. If she had a solid body now, the purple lightning would be a great tonic. Aog was already dumbfounded by what he saw. Pervert. What a pervert. After the purple lightning bolts were devoured by Yun Chujiu, Di Biming quickly broke through the barrier. The three of them discovered that they were still standing at the entrance of the 10,000 Ghost Cave. They did not know if they had just been teleported to another place or if everything was an illusion. Yun Chujiu said with some confusion, that old witch, Mei Yin, first said that as long as she died, the life extermination array would be activated. Later on, she said that the life extermination array was to prevent us from obtaining the soul gathering pearl. No matter what she said, this life extermination array is too simple, isn't it? Aog curled his lips. If she had the ability to set up the life extermination array, she wouldn't have tried so hard to borrow the power of our Yen clan. However, little Jiao, you're right. This life extermination array is too easy for us to crack. I'm afraid there's a trap. Chapter 4482 Cabbage time is limited. No matter what, let's go in first. Di Biming said in a deep voice. Yun Chujiu and Aog nodded, and the three of them walked into the Myriad Ghosts cave. Before entering, Hei Xinjiu glanced at the three crooked words. She was puzzled. Why did these three words look familiar? However, at this moment, her sleepiness came again. She could only try her best to fight it and put it to the back of her mind. What they saw was an endless tunnel. To their surprise, there were a lot of cabbages growing on both sides of the tunnel. Aog said cautiously, This is the cave of 10,000 ghosts. These cabbages are definitely not simple. Maybe they are disguised by Yuanji. Everyone must be careful. Yun Chujio looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. These are obviously ordinary cabbages. How are they Yuanji? Moreover, even if they want to disguise themselves, can they disguise themselves as common grass? Only if they have water in their heads would they disguise themselves as such eye-catching cabbages. Aoji thought about it and it made sense. Who would be crazy enough to disguise Yuanji as such eye-catching cabbages? Then there was a problem. Didn't those evil spirits like to eat human flesh raw and drink human blood raw? Why would they grow so many cabbages? It was really unbelievable. Aoji really could not think of a reason for the evil spirits to do so. He asked, "Little Jio, you have always been the smartest. Why do you think those evil spirits planted so many cabbages here?" Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "I'm not an evil spirit, how would I know? They probably think that cabbages are 100 fortune, planted here to attract wealth." Aoji stumbled. Regarding this explanation he had nothing to say. Yun Chujio looked at the dainty cabbages and sighed. "It's a pity that I didn't bring those rabbits. Otherwise they would have liked it very much. Aoji, as the saying goes, a thief never leaves empty-handed. You should pluck these cabbages." Aoji, putting aside whether he was a thief or not and whether these cabbages were worth stealing, "Just speaking of this, you're too damn careless. Don't you know what you're doing here? And you're even plucking cabbages?" "Pluck my ass." The three of them walked for a while. Apart from the cabbages on both sides of the corridor, they didn't even touch a single bug. "Aoji, are you sure we are in the right place? Are you sure this is really the 10,000 Ghosts Cave? Did you lead us to the wrong place? This doesn't look like the 10,000 Ghosts Cave to me. Instead, it looks like a vegetable field." Hei Shinjio said while yawning. Upon hearing that, Aoji immediately took out the map and looked at it again and again. He said weakly, "That's right. This is the 10,000 Ghosts Cave. Perhaps no one has dared to come here for a long time, so the evil spirits are so hungry that they have no choice but to eat cabbages." Yun Chujio glanced at him. "Do you believe what you say?" Aoji touched his nose and said, "Little Jio, it's not my fault. The main reason is that no one can leave the 10,000 Ghosts Cave alive, so no one knows what's going on inside. However, one thing is for sure, these cabbages must be hiding a murderous intent." Yun Chujio saw Aoji's anxious look, and evil water rose up. She said faintly, "I still have a guess. Maybe those evil spirits planted a cabbages when they killed a person. These cabbages are like gravestones for them. Maybe there are their corpses down here." Aoji looked at the endless cabbages and inexplicably shivered. God, if what little Jio said was true, how many people would be buried down here? Chapter 4483 was consecrated with cabbages. Yun Chujio looked at Aoji's appearance and could not help but feel happy in her heart. This Aoji usually had the arrogance of a crown prince, but in reality his courage was just average. Aoji did not know that Yun Chujio was deliberately messing with him, so he quickly moved closer to Beiming. It was safer to follow this pervert. Aoji also thought it through. Anyway, it was impossible for him to be together with little Jio, so there was nothing to pretend about. As for the arrogant crown prince style, he would temporarily put it aside. His little life was more important. The three of them did not know how many cabbages they had passed by, but their eyes suddenly opened, and an incomparably huge stone room appeared. Yun Chujio exclaimed in surprise. She realized that ever since she entered this stone room, her body had actually turned into a physical body. Although she felt very weak, she had indeed condensed into a physical body. It's probably because of the existence of the soul gathering pearl here, or perhaps there's a special array formation. That's why it's like this, Beiming guessed. Yun Chujio nodded and began to size up this huge stone chamber. There was a huge pearl hanging on the ceiling of the cave, illuminating the entire stone chamber as if it was daytime. There were countless caves on the surrounding stone walls, just like a beehive. There was a statue in the middle of the stone room. It was a graceful woman, but her face was covered by a red veil, so her face could not be seen clearly. There were many cabbages on the table under the woman's statue. They were probably used to worship the woman. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the cabbages used to worship the woman. The corner of her eyes twitched and she muttered softly, "This statue is the ghost ancestor, right? These evil spirits are really stingy. They only worship some cabbages." Just as Yun Chujio finished her sentence, a muffled voice roared, "You little punk, what do you know? The ghost ancestor loves cabbage the most. She once said that cabbage is 100 riches, a good thing that brings wealth. That's why we went through so much trouble to obtain a few cabbage seeds. We served them like we served our ancestors, and that's why we nurtured so many juicy cabbage. You ignorant little punk, how dare you insult our feelings towards the ghost ancestor? You deserve to die. Yun Chujio and the other two looked towards the source of the voice and saw a big man walking out from a cave. That big man was holding a large knife in his hand and looked as if he was a demon. However, Hei Shinjio was not afraid of him at all because Di Biming had already protected her in his protective shield. Hei Shinjio blinked her eyes. Little drifter? Cabbage was 100 fortune, a good thing to attract wealth? Why did the tone of the burly man's voice sound so familiar? Could it be that the people here also knew about Drifter? While the three of them were sizing up the burly man was also sizing up the three of them. The burly man's gaze finally landed on Yun Chujio and he frowned. According to tradition, if anyone dares to use cabbage as an argument, they will be killed without mercy. However, since you, little drifter, share the same fate as us, I can forgive your sins. Little drifter, I guess you came here to absorb the power of the soul-gathering pearl, right? TSK, you're too weak. I reckon that even if you cultivate for thousands of years, you might not even be able to form a single finger. However, we have more men than women here. I can make the decision to keep you here. As for the other two, leave quickly. Otherwise, you can only become fertilizer for the Chinese cabbage. AOG immediately quivered when he heard this. It turned out that little Gio had guessed correctly. There were actually corpses underneath those Chinese cabbage. However, from what this burly man meant, those people wouldn't be killed just because they discussed a few words about Chinese cabbage, right? Chapter 4484. If you don't enter the tiger's den, you will only get the tiger's cub. However, Di Biming's focus was on more men than women. The gaze he gave the burly man was so cold that it could freeze. The burly man sensed Di Biming's gaze and took a few steps back. Then he snorted coldly. Kid, I know your cultivation isn't weak, but we have the advantage in numbers. You guys aren't our match. Moreover, this little punk is very weak. We can make her disappear completely in a minute. Therefore, I advise you to leave the little punk behind and leave this place quickly. Otherwise, there will be a few more cabbages. AOG glanced around and did not find anyone other than the burly man. He said with the arrogant demeanor of a crown prince, "Don't bluff. You are clearly the only one here. There aren't many." AOG's voice suddenly stopped because there were people poking their heads out of the caves and glaring at him. AOG felt that if the gazes of those people could kill, he would have become a civ by now. Thus, the crown prince attitude that he had just displayed instantly disappeared without a trace. The big man pursed his lips. See? The reason why I'm the only one coming out is because I have to be polite before I attack. Otherwise, you would have lost your little lives long ago. Little drifter, I don't have a dual cultivation partner yet. Although you're very weak and useless, you're quite good looking, so I'll reluctantly accept you as my dual cultivation partner. Let me tell you, you've accumulated 8 lifetimes of virtue to be chosen by me. In this 10,000 spirits cave, I, Lord Tiger, am not a big or small figure. If you follow me, you'll be able to get closer to the soul-gathering pearl. Otherwise, you little weakling, I'm afraid you will only be able to look at the soul-gathering pearl from afar. Upon hearing the burly man's words, AOG was immediately enraged. Damn it, even though little Gio did not fancy him, it was not something that this bullshit Lord Tiger could covet. He was courting death. AOG was just about to fly into a rage when Yun Chujio said with a faint smile, "Big brother, I'm really sorry. Your conditions are too good. I'm not worthy of you. I know my own limits. A good-for-nothing like me is really sorry to delay your marriage. I only wish to have a place to cultivate." The burly man's eyes flickered. No matter what, he had to get rid of the 2 men first. These 2 men were not weak. If they fought, even if they could win, they would probably suffer a great loss. As for this little punk, there was still a long way to go. He was not afraid that she would not comply. Hence, he laughed and said, "All right, since you don't think that you are worthy of me, I won't force you. Let the 2 of them go. I will arrange for you to cultivate in the cave." Yun Chujio nodded. "I will talk to them over there and then let them leave." Although Di Biming and AOG did not know what Yun Chujio was up to, they still followed Yun Chujio to the exit of the stone chamber. Yun Chujio did not say anything. She just used her finger to write on Di Biming's palm, "If you don't go into the tiger's den, you won't get the tiger's son." Biming immediately understood Yun Chujia's meaning. Only the evil spirits knew where the soul-gathering pearl was. If they fought it head-on, even if the three of them could escape unscathed, they probably would not be able to get the soul-gathering pearl. If they were forced into a corner, those evil spirits would probably jump over the wall and destroy the soul-gathering pearl. If that was the case, it would really be a futile effort. Yun Chujia's intention was very clear. She wanted to blend in with the evil spirits first and find out the whereabouts of the 5 soul-gathering pearls. After that, she would make the next step. Chapter 4485, The Rules of the 10,000 Ghost Lair. To be honest, Biming was not at ease with Yun Chujio staying alone in the 10,000 Ghost Lair. Putting everything else aside, just the fact that the burly man said that there were more men than women made him uneasy. Wasn't this like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth? Aog also felt that it was not safe to do so, but he learned his lesson and did not say anything. Instead, he waited at the side for Biming to make a decision. Biming looked at Yun Chujia's determined gaze and finally nodded. He believed in her just as she believed in him. Biming nodded slightly, then turned around and walked out of the cave. When Aog saw this, he looked at Yun Chujio worriedly and followed Biming. Yun Chujio looked at Aog's small steps and felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. Why did she feel that Aog was now closer to the gigolo than to her? Did this guy just find out that he was right? Yun Chujio saw that the two of them had already gone far away, so she turned around and walked in front of the big man who called himself Master Hu. "Big brother, what do you think I should do next? I'm new here and I don't know anything. Please take care of me." The big man looked at Yun Chujio's beautiful face and felt an itch in his heart. However, thinking about how there were more wolves and less meat in the den of 10,000 ghosts, if he was too reckless and scared the little beauty, she would probably be taken advantage of by others. Therefore, he restrained the greed in his heart and patted his chest. "Little drifter, don't worry, I will take care of you from now on. You can call me Lord Tiger from now on. I don't know, how should I address you?" "Lord Tiger, my name is Little Gio," Yun Chujio said with a smile, but in her heart she was cursing. "Lord Tiger? Sooner or later I will make you a dead cat." Lord Tiger nodded. "Whether it's the cave of 10,000 spirits or the cave of 10,000 ghosts as outsiders say, one thing is right. There are nearly 10,000 people living here, so this rule is very important. Therefore I'll first tell you about the rules here. Do you see those caves on the stone walls? The people on the first floor are the ones with the highest status. The higher you go, the lower your status will be. If a little drifter like you agrees to dual cultivate with me now, you can live with me in the caves on the first floor. If you don't agree, then according to your status, you can only live in the cave on the top floor. You have to know that the higher you go, the lower the amount of soul power you can absorb, and the longer it takes for you to condense a physical body. So, at this point, Lord Hu didn't continue speaking. Yun Chujio naturally understood what he meant, but she only smiled and didn't say anything. Lord Hu was a little angry, but after thinking for a moment he still suppressed his anger. He continued, "Apart from that, the people at the highest level are also responsible for taking care of those cabbages. If anyone dares to injure a cabbages, they will be killed and used as fertilizer for the cabbages." Lord Hu was most likely afraid that Yun Chujio would not know how powerful it was, so he added, "These cabbages are used to worship the ghost ancestor, so you must be careful. If you really touch the cabbages, I won't be able to save you." Yun Chujio's heart was like a beeping dog. She did not know if the ghost ancestor was sick or if these evil spirits were sick. What was so good about these lousy cabbages on the street? Even if it was for the sake of earning money, it was fine to carve a stone cabbage and place it at the entrance of the cave, but there were actually so many of them. Moreover, if one touched it, one's head would fall off. If this was not sick, then what was? Although she was cursing silently, Hei Shinjio still nodded her head with a kind expression on her face. Lastly, every 10 days, everyone will have a chance to cultivate close to the soul-gathering pearl. There's a reason for this. The stronger the person, the higher the rank. With a weakling like you, you can only be ranked at the bottom, Lord Tiger said. Chapter 4486, Black Mole Between the Eyebrows. Master Hu, it seems that we can't see each other's cultivation here. How can we distinguish the strong and the weak? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Master Hu said casually, "Isn't that simple? We can just have a fight. Also, you see the 5 black moles between my eyebrows, right? This means that I'm a 5-star black rank, one of the best in this 10,000 ghost lair. Yin Chujio almost laughed out loud. What the hell? The black mole between this idiot's brows represented cultivation? She thought it was a pockmark. Moreover, wasn't this too terrible? If he cultivated to a certain level, wouldn't he have a face full of black moles? Although this fellow thought it was funny in his heart, his face was full of admiration. Lord Hu is indeed amazing. Then I wonder what the lowest cultivation is? Lord Hu straightened his back, obviously enjoying Yin Chujio's flattery. He grinned and said, the lowest is naturally a new drifter like you who doesn't have a mole. After you cultivate for a period of time, a 1-star black mole will appear between your brows, which means that your cultivation level has reached 1-star black rank. Yin Chujio was stunned. As long as she transformed into a human, there would be a red mole between her brows. Could it be that she didn't have a red mole between her brows now? She temporarily put down the doubts in her heart and asked, so they are all black moles? I thought there would be other colors. It's not that there are no other colors. It's just that, forget it. There's no need to talk too much with a new drifter like you. You probably don't know how to use the air controlling technique even though you've just cultivated it. Do you see the stone stairs at the side? You can climb up along them. When you reach the 18th floor, you can just randomly find an empty cave. Big Tiger Grandpa pointed at the stone stairs in the distance and said. Even though Hei Xingjiu had a lot of questions, she still thanked him profusely. Then she bade goodbye to Big Tiger and walked down the stone stairs. Big Tiger watched from not too far away and calculated in his heart that the stone stairs were very steep. The little drifter was also a newcomer and her body was very weak. He reckoned that she would know when it was difficult and retreat. Then he could take advantage of the situation and take her as his dual cultivation partner. Although this little drifter was so weak that it was unbearable to look at, she was really beautiful. Lord Hu was thinking about something beautiful when he saw Yin Chujio had already climbed up the stone stairs and was climbing up with great difficulty. Lord Hu thought to himself, humph, this is just the beginning. Soon she won't be able to hold on anymore. When that time comes, I can take the opportunity to be a hero and save the damsel in distress. I'm not afraid that she won't fall in love with me. However, Lord Hu saw that even though Yin Chujio was so tired that she stopped several times in the middle, she still climbed up to the 18th floor and randomly chose a cave to enter. Lord Hu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He did not expect this little punk to be so tough. Just as he was getting angry, he heard a gentle voice from behind. Lord Hu, are you taking a fancy to this new beauty? What? Do you think she's prettier than me? Or is Lord Hu no longer interested in me? The person who spoke was a woman with 3 black moles on her forehead. Although her looks could not be compared to Yin Chujio's, she was considered above average in this 10,000 ghost lair. When Lord Hu saw the woman, he immediately hugged her waist and said, Li Ji, little beauty, are you jealous? Even if I became a dual cultivation partner with that little drifter, you are still my darling. How could I forget you? Today you accompany me well. When the soul gathering pearl opens, I will move your seat forward. Li Ji then turned her anger into a smile and said gently, I'm just afraid that you'll forget about me. As for who you become a dual cultivation partner with, that has nothing to do with me. Lord Hu teased a few more times and left with Li Ji in his arms. During this time, Li Ji turned her head to look at the cave where Yin Chujio was, and a trace of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Chapter 4487. Chuamo. Yin Chujio did not know that Li Ji had the intention to kill her. This fellow was currently having a heart attack in the cave. Only after a while did she realize that she could no longer use the previous cultivation methods. She could not even use her inner vision of her Dantian, much less absorb soul power. Just as this fellow was feeling vexed, someone knocked on the dilapidated wooden door at the entrance of the cave. Yin Chujio opened the wooden door and saw a woman standing at the door. To be exact, it was a very fat lady. The fat lady was stunned when she saw Yin Chujio's appearance. A hint of inferiority flashed in her eyes. The inferiority flashed in the fat lattice eyes. She smiled and said, Hello, my name is Chuamo. I live next door to you. Although Yin Chujio did not know what Chumo's intention was, she was in a hurry to find someone to clear her doubts, so she said with a smile, So it's Sister Mo. You can call me Little Gio. Please come in. Yin Chujio noticed that there were 3 black moles between the fat girl's brows and she was puzzled. Logically speaking, this fat girl had already reached the 3rd star of black grade, so why was she still living on the 18th floor? After the fat girl entered Yin Chujio's cave, Yun Chujio suddenly felt that her cave had become even more narrow and closed. The cave was empty, so Chuamo did not care and directly sat on the ground. Seeing this, Yun Chujio could only sit on the ground and said with a smile, "Sister Amo, I'm new here and don't know anything. Please take care of me in the future." Chuamo smiled and nodded. "Little Gio, since we are neighbors, we naturally have to help each other." Yun Chujio said a few polite words and then said, "Sister Amo, I came here to condense a physical body. But how can I absorb soul power?" Chumo smiled and said, "The cultivation methods outside naturally won't work. Let me teach you a set of methods to absorb soul power." Chumo immediately taught Yun Chujio a set of cultivation methods. In fact, it was similar to the methods to cultivate essence energy and spirit energy, but there were only slight differences. Yun Chujio was naturally extremely grateful to Chuamo, but it wasn't good to ask too many questions since they had just met. Chuamo seemed to have seen through it and smiled. "Little Gio, I won't hide it from you. Because of my physique, I've been ridiculed and despised many times. When you saw me, there wasn't the slightest bit of abnormality. Just based on this point, I'm definitely going to make a friend of yours. If you have anything you want to ask, just ask." Hearing that, Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Sister Amo, this looks and figure is just a bag of skin. Those who judge people by their looks are all idiots. I won't do such a stupid thing." Chuamo smiled bitterly and said, "That being said, I'm still a little too fat, but there's nothing I can do about it. Unless I condense a physical body in the future, I can only think of ways to become slimmer." Yun Chujio saw that Chumo's mood was a little depressed, so she changed the topic and said, "Sister Amo, were you brought to this 10,000 ghost lair by the ghost ancestor?" Chuamo nodded and said, "The people inside are basically all brought here by the ghost ancestor, except for you." Yun Chujio said in puzzlement, "According to what you said, my situation is very special? Then why aren't you and Master Hu surprised to see me?" Chuamo explained, "Although your situation is special, there were some people who came here in the past who were in a similar situation as you. However, the weak are prey to the strong in this 10,000 ghost cave. They will be killed in a short time." Yun Chujio nodded. This was understandable. A strong dragon did not suppress a local snake. Those who came later would inevitably be ostracized. In addition, their strength was very weak, so it was normal for them to be killed. Chapter 4488 Hungry, Sister Mo. Then tell me about the ghost ancestor. Since you were brought here by the ghost ancestor, you must have lived here for nearly 10,000 years, right? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Chuamo smiled and shook her head. "Little Gio, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but when we were brought to the ghost territory by the ghost ancestor, all the past events were wiped clean, and we can't remember anything. Moreover, for some unknown reason, we had lost our intelligence for a long period of time. We were muddle-headed and killed everyone we saw. It was only recently that we regained our intelligence. We only have a few bits of memories of the ghost ancestor. You've seen those cabbages, right? Most of us only remember that the ghost ancestor said that cabbages were a source of wealth. That's why we planted those cabbages." Yun Chujio nodded her head. Speaking of which, it made sense. If these people had been absorbing soul power, they would have already condensed their physical bodies. They wouldn't still be trapped here. No wonder AOG said that the 10,000 ghost lair was very brutal. It was probably because those people had entered the 10,000 ghost lair a long time ago. These evil spirits had lost their intelligence at that time, so they were naturally very brutal. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, her stomach began to growl. She instantly felt that she was going to starve to death. Ever since she became a drifter, she couldn't eat anything. She had always been hungry. Now that she had a physical body, she naturally felt very hungry. "Sister Amo, do you have anything to eat? I'm going to starve to death." Yun Chujio said pitifully. Chuamo was stunned. "Hungry? Although we have physical bodies here, it's only because of the effect of the array formation. But in reality we don't have a body, so how can we be hungry?" Yun Chujio, that's true. Could it be that she was just psychological? Yun Chujio resisted the growing hunger and said a few words to Chuamo. Seeing that she was absent-minded, Chuamo tactfully bid her farewell. After Yun Chujio sent Chuamo off, she was so hungry that she wanted to scratch the wall. She was iron, rice and steel. She was so hungry after not eating. She had not eaten for a month, how could she not be hungry? She was so hungry. This fellow had wandered around the cave for dozens of times, but he still could not find anything edible. He could not possibly gnaw on stones and wooden doors, right? This fellow was so hungry that he could not stand it. He walked outside the cave and looked around. Outside the cave was a narrow corridor. There were many caves in the corridor, some were occupied and some were empty. This fellow took a lucky break and entered the ownerless caves to take a stroll. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything to eat. This fellow's gaze fell on the cabbage that was offered to the ghost ancestor. In the past, this fellow didn't like to eat vegetables the most. But now, looking at those cabbage, he was practically craving for it. If he were to hug a cabbage and take a few bites, what a wonderful thing it would be. Thinking of this fellow blamed D. Biming and AOG. These two idiots didn't even mention leaving some food for her when they left. They were planning to starve her to death. She didn't even think about it. She hadn't eaten anything for more than a month. How would D. Biming and AOG think of leaving anything for her to eat? Although this fellow was so hungry that she was about to cry, her remaining rationality told her that although cabbage was good, her life was more important. If she secretly ate the cabbage on the table, she probably wouldn't be able to live. Therefore, this fellow swallowed his saliva and obediently returned to his cave. However, as soon as she entered the cave, Chuamo knocked on the door again. "Little Jiu, let's go. It's time to work." Work. Yun Chujiu then remembered what Master Hu said about taking care of the cabbage. Once they left the stone room, they would have no physical body, so how would they take care of the cabbage? Chapter 4489. The miserable Hei Xinjiu Yun Chujiu walked out of the stone room with a belly full of curiosity. Then she saw Chu Mo directly use the airbending technique to float down. Yun Chujiu, Chu Mo landed on the ground. Only then did she realize that Yun Chujiu did not know the airbending technique. It was just that the airbending technique could not carry anything too heavy, so she could not help. Hei Xinjiu climbed down the stone stairs with a loud thud. As this fellow was climbing slowly, the people behind her were cursing and urging her. There was even someone who threatened her, "Little trash, hurry up and climb or I'll push you down to your death." Hei Xinjiu was holding her anger in her heart. However, she was new and did not want to cause any trouble. The black books in her heart had recorded all these people. It would not be too late for little Jiu to take revenge. She would see. Hei Xinjiu was so tired that she was panting. She finally climbed down the stone stairs. This guy was already very weak and he was starving to death. Now he felt that he was only left with half his life. Hei Xinjiu made up her mind. No matter what, she had to learn the air controlling technique first. Otherwise it would be too tiring to go back and forth. Seeing that Yun Chujiu was staggering, Chu Mo quickly went up to support her. Before she could say anything, she heard a sarcastic voice saying, The fat pig and the trash are together. It's really a group of people." Yun Chujiu turned her head and saw a woman with 3 black moles between her eyebrows standing not far away with a face full of ridicule. "Li Ji, watch your mouth. If you have the ability, let's fight," Chu Mo said angrily. Li Ji curled her lips. "I'm not going to fight with a fat pig like you. My delicate skin is not as thick as yours. With your pride, you can stay in the 18th level for the rest of your life." It was obvious that Chu Mo had been poked in a sore spot. He immediately walked towards Li Ji. Li Ji's face revealed a hint of panic. Although she and Chu Mo were both at Black Star level 3, if they really fought, she was not Chu Mo's match. Moreover, once they were defeated by Chu Mo, their caves would be swapped. Li Ji hurriedly called out in a coquettish voice, "Lord Hu, Chu Mo, that ugly freak is bullying me again. Quickly come out and help me vent my anger." Following Li Ji's shout, Lord Hu walked out from the cave. He said disdainfully, "Fat woman, are you looking for trouble again? If you don't know your place, I will kill you." Chu Mo clenched her fists. She was still not Lord Hu's match. If they really fought, she would definitely lose. Seeing this, Yun Chujiu walked up to Chu Mo and tugged at her sleeve. "Sister Mo, didn't you say it was time to work? Let's go or it'll be too late." Chu Mo knew that Yun Chujiu was helping her out, so he turned around and walked towards Yun Chujiu. When Lord Hu saw Yun Chujiu, his eyes immediately lit up. He wanted to go forward and say something, but Li Ji found an excuse to coax him back into the cave. Li Ji sneered in her heart. A new little girl still wanted to snatch her man? Dream on. She could be killed with just a simple trick. Yun Chujiu saw that Chu Mo's expression was not very good, so she carefully said, "Sister Mo, there's no need to be angry with that kind of person. Oh right, we'll become drifters once we leave this stone room. How are we going to take care of those cabbages?" Chu Mo's expression eased up a little and said, There's a secret art that can temporarily maintain a certain amount of time after using it. The length of time depends on your cultivation base. They'll teach you the mnemonic chant now. I reckon that you don't have a cultivation base now, so you can only maintain it for a very short time. Chapter 4490. Taking care of Chinese cabbages. Yun Chujio suddenly understood. She had said that if the evil spirit did not have a physical body, how could it plant so many Chinese cabbages? Sister Amo, then where did you get the seeds of Chinese cabbages? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Weren't there some people who had designs on soul-gathering beads before? After we killed them, we found them in their storage rings, Chu Amo explained. These cabbages were different from the ones Yun Chujio had seen in other continents. They were common cabbages in the ghost region, so it was normal to find a few seeds in those people's storage rings. Then, Chu Amo told Yun Chujio the method to condense a physical body for the time being. As soon as Chu Amo finished the chant, a man shouted, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and get to work." Yun Chujio turned around and saw a square-faced middle-aged man with a whip in his hand. Chu Amo dragged Yun Chujio towards the tunnel. He lowered his voice and said, "This is Luan Xiong, who is in charge of the 18th floor. If you fail to complete the mission, you will be whipped. But don't worry, I will help you complete your mission." Yun Chujio naturally thanked him profusely. However, she was very puzzled in her heart. What did he mean by taking care of the cabbages? She saw that the cabbages were very beautiful. How else would they need to be taken care of? The people on the 18th floor flew into the tunnel. Naturally, they would not waste their short physical time on the journey. Yun Chujio followed Chu Amo and floated to the end of the tunnel. Chu Amo was obviously ostracized. She was arranged to take care of the 5 cabbages at the end of the tunnel. Yun Chujio, the new doormat, was arranged to sit beside Chu Amo. Yun Chujio saw that their arranged position was very close to the exit. She could not help but stretch her neck to look outside. She wanted to see if Di Biming and Aog were nearby. However, she was stunned to find that there was a layer of enchantment not far from them. It was really strange. Why didn't they find this enchantment when they came in earlier? Chu Amo seemed to have noticed her doubt. She lowered her voice and said, "When you came in earlier, it was probably Lord Tiger who removed the barrier, so you guessed that you came in unimpeded?" Yun Chujio nodded and retracted her gaze. She looked at the 10 dainty Chinese cabbages. To be honest, if it wasn't for his strong willpower, he would have already pounced on them and nibbled on them. This fellow was usually unhappy without meat. He never imagined that the cabbage that he usually despised would actually look so delicious now. This fellow swallowed his saliva. "Big Sister Amo, how are we going to take care of these cabbage? I reckon that you won't be able to condense a physical body for long." "Don't waste your soul power. Just watch from the side." After saying that, Chu Amo condensed a physical body. After that, she formed a seal with both hands. A faint halo appeared on her hands as she carefully stopped above a cabbage. Yun Chujio was surprised to discover that the cabbage that was illuminated by the halo had actually grown at a speed visible to the naked eye. Furthermore, it looked even more dainty. Yun Chujio guessed that the halo should be soul power. These cabbage were actually nourished by soul power? What a reckless waste of natural resources. However, it was also true. The interior of the tunnel was very dark. Although there were some illuminating beads placed on the ceiling of the cave, they couldn't be compared to the sunlight. If it wasn't for the special methods used to take care of it, it wouldn't be able to grow so dainty. Taking care of these cabbages clearly consumed a lot of soul power. By the time Chu Amo finished all 10 cabbages, her face had turned extremely pale. This was because Chu Mo's cultivation base had already reached the black rank 3-star. Some people had even collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily. On one hand, Yun Chujio was extremely grateful to Chu Amo. On the other hand, she thought of a very crucial problem. These cabbages couldn't possibly continue to grow like this, right? What if they matured? Would she just let them rot in the ground? If that was the case, it would be too wasteful. She might as well let her eat them. Chapter 4491. Cleaning the statue. Yun Chujio explained her question, and Chu Amo smiled. How can they be allowed to rot in the ground? After these cabbages mature, apart from being used to worship the ghost ancestor, they also need to be used to worship the soul-gathering pearl. Yun Chujio was stunned. What was that? Used to worship the soul-gathering pearl? It was understandable to worship the ghost ancestor, But what did it mean to worship the soul-gathering pearl? Yun Chujio wanted to ask more questions, but Luan Xiong, who was in charge of managing the 18th floor, urged everyone to return to the stone room as soon as possible. Yun Chujio could only swallow her questions back into her stomach and prepared to ask more questions when she returned to the cave. When this fellow passed by those dainty cabbages, it was simply torturous. If only she could hug a cabbages and take a few bites now. There were so many cabbages in front of her, but she did not cherish them. If she was given another chance, she would definitely eat enough. Hei Shinjio floated back to the stone room with difficulty. She was about to climb the stone stairs when she heard Luan Xiong say, "That newcomer, clean the statue of the ghost ancestor properly. If you don't clean it properly, humph." Chuamo was about to stay and help when Luan Xiong said coldly, "Chuamo, it's fine if you helped her to take care of the cabbage just now. If you meddle in other people's business again, you don't have to go to the opening of the soul-gathering pearl this time." Hearing that, Yun Chujio hurriedly said to Chuamo, "Sister Amo, you go back first. I'll do it myself." Chuamo had no choice but to remind her, "You must be careful when you clean it. Don't damage the statue or you'll be severely punished." "Got it, I will be careful." Chuamo glanced at Yun Chujio worriedly, then used the levitation spell to return to the cave. Luan Xiong asked someone to pass Yun Chujio the tools to wipe the statue, then turned around and left. The rest of the people gloated over Yun Chujio's misfortune and left as well. Yun Chujio looked at the water basins and rags, wondering if these things were also obtained from the people who entered the cave. However, where did this water come from? Yun Chujio felt that there were many questions in the cave of 10,000 ghosts, but her thoughts were quickly distracted by the cabbages on the table. The juicy cabbages were now very attractive to the hungry Hei Shinjio. This guy had an idea. This guy took the rags and began to wipe the table. However, under the cover of his body and the statue, this guy grabbed a small piece of cabbages and stuffed it into his mouth. The clear and sweet juice instantly filled his mouth, and Hei Shinjio almost cried with happiness. It was too damn delicious. This was not cabbage, it was obviously nectar. However, this small piece of cabbage leaf completely aroused Hei Xinjia's craving. This guy thought that he would not stop until he was done. Anyway, this cabbage was different from other vegetables, so no one would be able to tell if he broke off a few leaves. Therefore, like an ant moving house, she quickly ate 3 pieces of cabbage leaf. Just as she was about to continue eating, she saw Luan Xiong walking over. She quickly wiped her mouth with her sleeve and continued to wipe the sacrificial table. Luan Xiong walked up to her and frowned. "Are you stupid? Why do you keep wiping the sacrificial table? Why don't you wipe the statue?" "Master, I don't know how to control the air, and the statue of the ghost ancestor is very tall. I don't know what to do," Yun Chujio said hesitantly. Luan Xiong said with a fake smile, "You have to think of a way yourself. However, if you can stay with me for one night, I can get someone to help you do it." Chapter 4492, The Art of Controlling the Air. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Damn it, why were there so many lecherous people in the den of 10,000 ghosts? Was the ghost ancestor blind back then? How did he save these bastards? Although this fellow was cursing in his heart, he said on the surface, "Thank you for your kind intentions, sir. I'll think of a way myself." Luan Xiong said with some exasperation, "Chimp, since you're asking for it, I won't stop you. If you don't wipe the statue clean, don't go back to sleep today." Luan Xiong left angrily after saying that. Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. She didn't sleep, she wouldn't sleep. As long as there were cabbages to eat, it was better than anything else. This fellow began to slowly clean the bottom of the statue. When he found a gap, he would secretly eat the cabbages. Very quickly the cabbages became smaller. This fellow wasn't worried at all. Anyway, if one didn't look carefully, no one would notice that the cabbages had shrunk. Moreover, the people here didn't need to eat, so naturally no one suspected that she had eaten it secretly. Although this fellow had eaten more than 10 pieces of cabbage, she was only half full. However, she was afraid that others would notice the abnormality of the cabbage, so she could only swallow her saliva and stop eating secretly. Now the question was, how should she wipe the middle and upper parts of the statue? Just as she was worrying, Master Hu walked over with Fang Bu, followed by the gloomy-looking Li Ji. "Little drifter, what's wrong? Are you worried that you don't have a way to wipe the statue? Why don't you agree to dual cultivate with me and I'll get Li Ji to help you wipe it?" Master Hu stared at Yun Chujio's face, which seemed to have become more beautiful. Li Ji was furious. However, she did not dare to refute Lord Hu. Instead, she stared at Yun Chujio as if her eyes were poisoned. Yun Chujio laughed lightly. Lord Hu, thank you for your kind intentions. I'll do it myself. Lord Hu curled his lips. You'll do it yourself? There's no ladder here. Unless you learn the air controlling technique, you won't be able to clean the statue. If you don't complete the mission, you won't even be able to return to the cave, much less the opportunity to participate in the opening of the Soul Gathering Pearl. You have to think carefully. Yun Chujio chuckled again. Master Hu, then I'll learn the air controlling technique first before wiping the statue. Before Master Hu could say anything, Li Ji sneered, aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue? You probably don't know, right? Only people who have reached the 2nd star of black rank can use the air controlling technique. Based on your talent as a good-for-nothing, I'm afraid that you won't be able to reach the 2nd star of black rank for decades or even hundreds of years. Just wait to be punished. Master Hu, since she doesn't know how to appreciate favors, why should you bother with her? After she has suffered, she will naturally go and beg you. Master Hu thought that it made sense. He snorted coldly and turned around to leave. Li Ji looked at Yun Chujio proudly. Then she twisted her waist and caught up with Master Hu. She held his arm and left while chatting and laughing. Hey, Shinjio was really worried now. If she couldn't use the air-controlling spell, how could she wipe the statue of the ghost ancestor? Her eyes lit up at the thought. She was really stupid. Although she couldn't fly, she could tie a rag to a stick. She waved at Chu Mo, who was looking up, and Chu Mo immediately floated down. Sister Mo, do you know where there is a longer stick? I want to tie the rag to it and use it to wipe the statue of the ghost ancestor. Chu Mo was stunned and then smiled bitterly. Little Jio, this method of yours is quite good, but where are the wooden sticks here? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Sister Mo, this isn't difficult. You can go up and tear down my wooden door and tie it together with wooden sticks. Chu Mo. Chapter 4493. The ghost ancestor statue's ear fell off in the end. Chu Mo still followed Yun Chujio's instructions and flew up to tear down Yun Chujio's wooden door. Then she tied it into a wooden stick. Hei Shinjio tied a rag to it and began to wipe the ghost ancestor statue. This fellow felt that she was really too smart. So what if she didn't know how to control the air? Didn't she still come up with a good idea? This fellow couldn't help but hum a little tune as she rubbed against it. However, at this moment, clang. The left ear of the statue of the ghost ancestor fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Hei Xinjia's head buzzed. Even if she used her heel to think, she knew that she had been framed. Otherwise, why would the statue's ear fall off when she didn't use any strength? The sound of the statue's ear falling to the ground immediately woke many people up. Yun Chujio smiled bitterly. The statue's ear fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Even if she wanted to find any clues, it was impossible. Oh my, what happened? You bitch. You actually destroyed the ghost ancestor's statue. You're trying to make all of us unlucky. Li Ji shouted sharply. Yun Chujio immediately understood that Li Ji was most likely the mastermind behind this. Even if she didn't do it directly, she had to be involved. Yun Chujio glanced at Li Ji, who was gloating. Li Ji was scared by her glance and took a few steps back. You bitch. You made a big mistake and you still dare to glare at me? Just wait to be punished. Li Ji said angrily. Yun Chujio knew that it was useless to say anything now. She could only see what the so-called punishment was and then make further plans. The people in the cave stood on the corridors of each floor and looked down. Other than Lord Hu and Wan Xiong, no one else came out of the cave on the first floor. Lord Hu rolled his eyes. Little Drifter, I'm the only one who can save you now. As long as you agree to dual cultivate with me, I'll let Wan Xiong get rid of your punishment. Otherwise, TSK, you'll have to move the mature cabbages into the Soul Gathering Cave. You should know that although the Soul Gathering Cave is usually a paradise when it's open, it's usually a purgatory. Even if you don't die, you'll have to peel off a layer of skin. Yun Chujio's attention was instantly attracted by the words, move the cabbages. A thought flashed through this fellow's mind. Finally, he could have a good meal of cabbages. Lord Hu thought that Yun Chujio would show a frightened and uneasy expression after she finished talking, but he didn't expect that Yun Chujio's expression didn't change. If he looked carefully, there seemed to be a trace of joy. This little punk must be stupid, right? Lord Hu thought that Yun Chujio didn't realize the seriousness of the matter, so he raised his voice and said, Don't think that it's just transporting a few cabbages. The mature cabbages in these tunnels have to be transported to the soul-gathering cave. Moreover, we can't use the storage ring, so you can only rely on manpower to transport them. Lord, who was talking a lot, but Yun Chujia's attention was all on the cabbages. It would be better if they were all transported. Only then would she be able to eat enough. She couldn't use the storage ring? Then how did she get the cabbages from those people's storage rings? However, Hei Shinjo thought that it was simple. These evil spirits must have forced those people to hand over the things in their storage rings before they killed those people. Lord, who saw that Yun Chujio was still acting like she was out of this world, and he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Li Ji fanned the flames by the side again. He snorted coldly and left with a flick of his sleeves. Chapter 4494 Moving Cabbages. Li Ji gave Luan Xiong a veiled glance before following Lord Hu away. Luan Xiong saw Yun Chujia's stunned expression and thought that she was scared silly. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Do you choose to move cabbages or?" Without waiting for Luan Xiong to finish speaking, Yun Chujio said crisply, "I choose to move cabbages." Luan Xiong was furious. He snorted, "Since you want to die, then I'll fulfill your wish. Those on the 18th floor, get down here and pluck all the mature cabbages." The evil spirits on the 18th floor did not dare to disobey, so they could only come down again to pluck the cabbages. Of course, these people would definitely vent their anger on Yun Chujio. If she did not make a mistake, they could pluck the cabbages again tomorrow morning. There was no need to go through all the trouble again. Chuamo looked at Yun Chujio worriedly. It was just that her ability was limited and she couldn't help. She had also carried cabbages with the people on the 18th floor. Because there were so many people, each person only needed to carry them once. Even so, every time they came back from the soul-gathering cave, they had to take 2 days off. This was because she was already a 3-star black rank. The other people took longer to carry cabbages, and some with low cultivation would even lose their lives. Little Gio didn't have any cultivation at all and her body was weak. She would probably lose half of her life even if she went there, not to mention moving all the cabbages. Yun Chujia's expression was normal. She was so happy in her heart and her mind was filled with cabbages. Cabbages were good, and cabbages were amazing. After a full 2 hours, those people only managed to pluck a few hundred cabbages. This was mainly because the time it took for them to materialize was very short. Often they would turn into drifters halfway through the pluck and could only pluck after a period of time. Luan Xiong pointed at a cave and said, "Do you see it? That's the soul-gathering cave. It's not too late for you to regret it now." Before Luan Xiong could finish his sentence, Yun Chujio rushed into the cave with a few cabbages in her arms. Luan Xiong was so angry that he almost died. This bitch seemed to be willing to die rather than submit to him. Then she should just die. He was certain that Yun Chujio would die without a doubt after 3 cabbages were transported. He decided to stand here and wait. He reckoned that she would know how powerful the soul-gathering cave was after 1 round of transporting cabbages. Then she would obediently submit. On the other side, Hei Shinjio carried a few cabbages into the so-called soul-gathering cave. At the beginning it was a narrow tunnel. This guy walked in slowly, and the aroma of the cabbages kept drilling into her nose. This guy thought to himself, "Damn it, since I've made a mistake, I might as well add another one." Therefore, after walking for a while, this guy sat on the ground and started to eat the cabbages. He didn't know if it was because he had been hungry for too long or because the cabbage here was too delicious, but this guy soon ate all the cabbage. This guy burped, wiped his mouth and left the cave. Luan Xiong saw Yun Chujio jumping out alive, and his eyeballs almost fell out. How could this be? Even if he entered the soul-gathering cave at this time, he would be injured. How could she be fine? "Did you send the cabbage to the place? Did you throw the cabbage into the tunnel?" Luan Xiong frowned and asked. Yun Chujio looked innocent. "Of course I sent it to the place. Why don't you go in and take a look?" Luan Xiong entered the corridor with doubt. When he saw that there were no cabbage in the corridor, he believed that Yun Chujio really sent the cabbage to the soul-gathering cave. How would he know that the cabbages had all gone into someone's stomach? Chapter 4495 Soul-Gathering Cave. Luan Xiong only swept his gaze across the corridor and did not enter the soul-gathering cave in front to take a look. He was not stupid. He would be injured after entering once. There was no need for him to go in and take a look. Cheating Gio had also calculated this point. Hence he did not look guilty at all. Luan Xiong pondered for a moment and felt that it was 80% likely that this new drifter's soul power was too low. Therefore the injuries he suffered were also small. However, he reckoned that entering again would not be so easy. Seeing that Luan Xiong had come out without saying anything, Yun Chujio hugged a few large cabbages and happily entered the cave once again. However, this time Luan Xiong stood at the entrance of the cave to watch, so she couldn't continue to steal food. She could only bite the bullet and continue walking forward. After walking for a long distance, a barrier appeared in front of her. This fellow was thinking, how do I open this thing? However, Luan Xiong was watching at the entrance of the cave, so she could only pretend to walk over naturally. Fortunately, she didn't encounter any obstacles and directly walked in. This enchantment could probably only block normal humans, and a drifter like her could enter and leave as she pleased. Hei Xinjiu recalled what Master Hu had said before. He said that this soul-gathering cave was a purgatory where one would be stripped of their skin upon entering. What was so scary about this place? Yun Chujio hugged the cabbage and looked around. This was a very spacious cave. It was not even smaller than the stone room before, but it was empty. There were only a dozen or so cabbages placed on the stone platform in the middle. Yun Chujio thought for a moment and guessed that the cabbages in her hand should be placed there as well. Hence, she walked over and placed a few cabbages in her hand on the stone platform as well. This guy circled around the stone platform a few times, but he still did not feel anything wrong. What purgatory, what life is worse than death, what skin is peeled off, are you talking nonsense? However, this guy thought for a moment. If he left so quickly, there was an 80% chance that Luan Xiong would be suspicious. Then he would just eat another cabbages. Therefore he sat on the stone platform and began to eat a cabbage. He cursed in his heart. Although the cabbage was delicious, it was only edible. The meat was still delicious. However, he had no other choice but to eat it. Nothing unusual happened until Yun Chujio finished eating a cabbage. This guy was afraid of being suspected, so he started to run in the cave. After running a few rounds, he sweated a little and messed up his hair a little. Then he left the soul-gathering cave. Luan Xiong was a little impatient waiting outside. He thought to himself, did that little punk die in the soul-gathering cave? If she really died in the cave, it would be a pity. After all, her appearance was definitely the first one in the cave of 10,000 ghosts. Just as Luan Xiong was thinking about it, he saw Yun Chujie's head was covered in sweat and her hair was messy. Luan Xiong saw that Yun Chujie's footsteps were very staggering, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of pride. He said with a fake smile, now you know how powerful the soul-gathering cave is, right? If you are willing to agree to me now, I will arrange for someone else to transport the remaining cabbages. Yun Chujio did not say anything. She picked up a few cabbages and staggered into the cave. Luan Xiong was so angry that he was twitching. He decided not to keep an eye on her anymore. Anyway, if she could not hold on any longer, she would naturally go and beg him. After Yun Chujio entered the soul-gathering cave, she placed the cabbages on the stone platform and yawned a few times in succession. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, she slept again. It was simply wonderful. Hence, this guy found a corner and sat on the ground. He leaned against the wall and fell asleep just like that. Chapter 4496 Soul Extinguishing Baleful Wind. Chu Mo waited outside for a long time, but Yun Chujio still didn't come out. Her heart sank. Could it be that little Jiu died inside? She was running around anxiously. She found Luan Xiong and pleaded, Sir, little Jiu hasn't come out for a long time. Could she faint inside? Can I go in and take a look? Luan Xiong rolled his eyes. If that little girl was seriously injured and brought out, wouldn't she be at his mercy? Thus he nodded his head. Then you should go in and take a look. Chu Mo immediately rushed into the tunnel and entered the soul-gathering cave after passing through the barrier. Almost as soon as she entered the soul-gathering cave, a gust of baleful wind blew in the cave. The black baleful wind was as sharp as a blade. Chu Mo could only use her soul power to barely form a protective barrier. However, the protective barrier was broken by the gust of wind in an instant, and her body was quickly cut open. When she saw that the cave was empty, she was shocked. Where did little Jiu go? However, when her gaze swept past a corner and found a person lying there, her heart sank. It's over, little Jiu is definitely dead. She sighed in her heart. No matter what, even if it was a corpse, she could not leave it here. Thus, she walked in front of Hei Xinjiu. Chu Mo was suddenly stunned. That was because, to her bewilderment, she discovered that not a single gust of evil wind blew on Yun Chujia's body. There wasn't even a single gust of evil wind in a small area with Yun Chujio as the center. Could it be that because little Jio was dead, the evil wind didn't attack her anymore? The more Chu Mo thought about it, the more she felt that this was the case. Therefore she sobbed and said, "Little Jio, you and I are sisters. They'll bring you out and bury you in peace." After saying that, Chu Mo was about to carry Hei Shinjio out, but Hei Shinjio mumbled, "Cabbage, delicious, another one." Chu Mo was so scared that she almost sat on the ground. Was she dead? She was about to use her finger to check Yun Chujia's breathing, but Yun Chujio woke up. She looked at Chu Mo in confusion and then looked at the evil wind in the cave. She was a little confused. After Chu Mo was shocked, she said in surprise, "Little Jio, you're not dead?" "Yun Chujio, didn't she just take a nap? How did she die?" "Sister Mo, why did you come in? And what the hell are those things?" Yun Chujio pointed at the evil wind and asked, "Little Jio, it's good that you're okay. I saw that you hadn't gone out for a long time and thought that something had happened to you, so I came in to take a look. Those are soul-extinguishing banes. They hurt people like us the most. That's why every time we bring in cabbages, we have to peel off a layer of their skin. Those with weaker cultivations might even lose their lives," Chu Mo explained. Soul-extinguishing banes? Yun Chujio was puzzled. When she came in before, there was no such thing. "Sister Mo, those soul-extinguishing banes didn't attack us. What's there to be afraid of?" Yun Chujio asked in confusion. "Chu Mo, are you blind? Can't you see that there are many cuts on her body?" However, that's true. Ever since she got close to little Jio, those soul-extinguishing baleful winds really didn't attack her. What's going on? In order to verify her guess, Chu Mo took a few steps back. Those soul-extinguishing baleful winds immediately began to attack her again. She quickly got closer to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio also noticed this and said hesitantly, "Could it be that the corner we're in is a bit special? So the soul-extinguishing evil winds won't attack us?" Chapter 4497 Not attack her? Chu Mo thought that it was possible, so she said, "Then it'll protect you. You can try somewhere else." Then, Chu Mo was stunned to find that as Yun Chujio moved, the soul-extinguishing evil winds took the initiative to avoid her. Wherever Yun Chujio was, there was nothing within 5 feet of her. Yun Chujio puzzledly looked at Chu Mo. "Mo, elder sister, you are not playing with me? These soul-extinguishing evil winds are very friendly? Won't attack people at all." "Chu Mo, you are blind." Chu Mo, in order to prove to Yun Chujio see back a few steps, those evil wind immediately began to attack her crazily. She quickly retreated to Yun Chujio's side. Yun Chujio's eyes widened. It seemed that it was not that the soul-destroying evil winds did not attack people, but that they did not attack her? Could it be that she was now so beautiful that the soul-destroying evil winds could not bear to hurt her? This kind of narcissistic thought was just a thought. She looked around and realized that the soul-destroying evil winds did not attack the cabbage on the stone platform. "Sister Mo, every time you move the cabbages, will the soul-extinguishing winds damage the cabbages?" Chu Mo was dazed for a moment before she shook her head. "Not really. The soul-extinguishing winds will avoid the cabbages." Hei Shinjio pondered for a moment. Could it be that the soul-extinguishing winds did not attack her because she had eaten a lot of cabbages? Therefore the guy brought Chu Mo to the stone platform, broke a piece of cabbages and said, "Sister Mo, try it. The cabbages are delicious." Chu Mo was so scared that she almost fainted. Little Jio, are you crazy? If people find out about this, you will lose your life." Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders. "Can't you just keep it a secret? Try it, it's really delicious. Moreover, I think it's because I ate this cabbage that the soul-extinguishing evil wind didn't attack me." Chu Mo was skeptical, but seeing Yun Chujio's sincere expression, she could only take it. As she hadn't eaten anything for so many years, Chu Mo felt uncomfortable after eating a little, and she couldn't eat any more. Yun Chujio took the remaining cabbage from her hand and ate it all in a few mouthfuls. As she ate, she said, "Sister Mo, try it this time. The soul-extinguishing baleful wind definitely won't attack you." Upon hearing this, Chu Mo immediately took a few steps back. Those soul-extinguishing evil winds immediately charged at her, and they were even fiercer than before. She did not know if it was Chu Mo's misconception, but she had a feeling that those soul-extinguishing evil winds were somewhat exasperated. Could it be because she had secretly eaten cabbage leaves? Chu Mo hurriedly retreated to Yun Chujio's side, and only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Yun Chujio touched her nose. Well, Sister Mo, it's most likely because you ate too little. Why don't you try eating a cabbage? Chu Mo thought to herself, if I believe you, I'll be a ghost. It's not about whether I eat cabbage or not. It's really strange. Why won't these soul-extinguishing baleful winds attack little Gio? Could it be because little Gio is good-looking? The two of them stared at each other. No one knew what was going on. Hei Xinjia's appetite was aroused by the half-piece of cabbage. She simply hugged the cabbage and said while chewing, "Who cares what's going on? It's a good thing that they don't attack me. Speaking of which, this soul-gathering cave is much more spacious than my cave. Moreover, these soul-extinguishing baleful winds are standing guard for me. It's much safer. In the future, I'll make some mistakes whenever I have nothing to do. This way I'll be punished to transport cabbages. There'll be a place to eat and sleep. How nice." Chu Mo. Chapter 4498. Soul power suddenly decreased. After a moment of silence, Chu Mo said hesitantly, "Little Gio, although I don't know why those soul-extinguishing evil winds didn't attack you, it's best not to let others know about this matter. Otherwise, I'm afraid." Yun Chujio nodded. "I ate quite a lot of cabbages this time. I reckon I can last for a few days. I'll get into trouble again in the future." Chu Mo, she looked at Hei Xinjiu, who was chewing very sweetly, and the corner of her eyes twitched. Although she did not have any memories of the past, this cabbage should not be considered a delicious thing, right? Why did she look like little Gio was eating so well? Yun Chujio quickly finished off a cabbage. She wiped her mouth and said, "Sister Mo, in order to avoid being suspected, you can carry me out later." Chu Mo, are you sure that you are not suffering from laziness? In the end, Chu Mo carried Hei Xinjiu out of the soul-gathering cave, whose hair was disheveled and her face was covered in blood. Of course, the blood was smeared on Chu Mo's wound by Hei Xinjiu. Luan Xiong wanted to bring Hei Xinjiu back to his cave when he saw the two of them coming out, but he lost interest when he saw her messy appearance. He asked the other people on the 18th floor to carry the remaining cabbage into the soul-gathering cave. Hei Xinjiu pretended to slow down for a while before she struggled to climb the stone stairs and return to the cave. He did not know if it was an illusion, but this fellow felt that after eating the cabbages, his waist was no longer sore and his legs no longer hurt. He could climb up to the 18th floor in one go. When this fellow saw his bare cave entrance, he immediately asked Chu Mo to help him unload the other cave doors and install them at his cave entrance. After Chu Mo left, Yun Chujio began to absorb the soul power according to the cultivation method Chu Mo had taught her. The reason why this guy was so diligent was because she realized that D. Biming and Aog clearly had no way to enter the soul-gathering cave. In that case, she could only rely on herself. If she wanted to obtain the soul-gathering pearl, she definitely wouldn't be able to do it with her current useless appearance. At the very least, she should learn how to control the air. Unfortunately, this fellow's thoughts were pretty good. He had just successfully lured his soul into his body when he fell asleep. Just as this fellow was sleeping soundly, he heard a commotion outside. This fellow opened his eyes impatiently. Why was it so difficult to sleep? What happened again? When this fellow walked out of the cave, he heard a series of clamors. What the fuck, what's going on? Why did the soul power suddenly become so thin? I can't even feel the soul power. Yeah, I've been cultivating for half a day and only managed to absorb a tiny bit of soul power. What the hell? Where did the soul power go? Yun Chujio was confused and asked Chu Mo, who had just come out, "Sister Mo, what did they mean?" Chu Mo frowned. "You might not have felt it when you were cultivating just now, but for some reason, the soul power in this stone room had decreased by a lot, even less than 1/10 of what it used to be." Yun Chujio only understood a little and mumbled, "There's an 80% chance that the soul-gathering pearl is eating cabbage, so it's slacking off." Chu Mo was speechless. "Did you think that everyone was a foodie like you?" Right at this moment, a sharp female voice said, "I think that this must be because that new girl little Gio has removed Buddha's ear, which is why such a thing has happened. She's a jinx. If we kill her and sacrifice her to the ghost ancestor, her soul power will return to normal." Yun Chujio stretched her neck to take a look. The one who spoke was Li Ji. She cursed in her heart. This coquettish slut is really courting death. Chapter 4499. Locked in the soul-gathering cave. Li Jis words immediately resonated with the others. The reason was very simple. Normally everything was normal, but why was it abnormal today? It must have something to do with the destruction of the ghost ancestor statue. Because of the seriousness of the matter, the people on the first floor of the cave also came out. The person in the lead was a square-faced old man. Lord Hu and Luan Xiong both went up, obviously following the old man's lead. The old man's gaze swept across the statue of the ghost ancestor, which was missing an ear, and said gloomily, Li Ji is right. Lock that new little Jiao in the soul-gathering cave. Treat it as a sacrifice to the ghost ancestor. Chu Mo, who was originally worried, was speechless. Sacrifice. What was the difference between this and a mouse falling into a bag of rice? She lowered her voice and said, there are still 3 days before the opening of the soul-gathering pearl. Think of a way to escape these few days. Otherwise, when they find out that you're not dead, I'm afraid they won't let it go. Yun Chujio nodded. Sister Mo, hurry up and tell me the mnemonic formula of the air manipulation technique. Although Chu Mo wanted to say that with Yun Chujio's current cultivation base, it would be useless even if she learned it, she still told her the mnemonic formula. After Yun Chujio memorized it, she climbed down the stone stairs under the stern berating of Luan Xiong and the others. She did not explain and obediently walked into the soul-gathering cave. Coincidentally, at this moment, her soul power had returned to normal. Everyone felt that it was extremely correct to sacrifice Yun Chujio to the ghost ancestor. Only Chu Mo was extremely worried for Yun Chujio. After He Xingjiu entered the soul-gathering cave, she discovered that there were many cabbages placed on the stone platform. It was likely that those people had just moved them in. However, she did not discover the shadow of the soul-extinguishing baleful wind. She yawned. Her sleep was intermittent and she did not sleep well. It was better to sleep first. When she was about to go to the corner to sleep, she found that the stone platform with cabbages was not bad. This guy simply moved the cabbages to the side and lay down on it to sleep. This guy comforted himself before he went to sleep. It was not her fault for being a snooze. In the past month, Di Biming and Aog had tried every means to prevent her from sleeping. They were so sleepy. While He Xingjiu was sleeping soundly, Buttface's sobbing voice sounded in her mind, Little fairy, help. If you don't come and save me, you will only see a dead dog. Yun Chujio was startled awake and sat up immediately. She wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Where exactly were Buttface and the others trapped? Logically speaking, a perverted thing like the big brick should not be easily tricked. Who was the mastermind behind this? No matter what, it was still important to get the soul-gathering pearl first. However, if those people found out that she was not dead 3 days later, they would probably not be kind. How could she hide it from the world? Yun Chujio thought for a long time, but she could not think of a good idea. Instead, her stomach started to growl. This fellow could only eat cabbage and think of a way. She stood up and knocked on the stone walls around her. She found that they were all solid. Obviously, there was no hidden room or other mechanism. She did not know where the 5 giant soul pearls were hidden, and why did they only appear after a period of time. Although Yun Chujio did not know the exact time, as time passed, she became more and more anxious. Where should she hide them? When her gaze accidentally swept across the stone platform, her eyes lit up. The stone platform was a distance higher than the surrounding ground. If she could hide it inside, it would be foolproof. So, the question was, how could it be hidden inside? Chapter 4500. The Art of Levitation. He Xingjiu knocked on the stone platform and was surprised to find that the bottom of the stone platform was empty. How could it be empty? Could it be a vegetable cellar? This fellow tried a few directions and actually pushed the stone platform. This fellow's little heart was thumping like a rabbit. He was about to discover the secret. However, this fellow was soon disappointed. She discovered that there wasn't any secret room or entrance under the stone platform, but a formation disc. This fellow was stunned for a moment, then slapped her thigh. She knew what kind of formation disc this was. According to Chu Mo, these cabbages would be reduced by a portion on a regular basis, so this must be a teleportation array. It was just that she did not know where the cabbages were sent to. Could it be that they were really eaten by those 5 soul-gathering pearls? Logically speaking, even if they had turned into spirits, they should not be eating. Where exactly were those cabbages sent to? This fellow did not have the time to think about where the cabbages were. This fellow discovered that the groove where the yuan stones were placed on the formation plate was very big, so this fellow pulled the yuan stones aside and lay down inside. It was just right. However, if the stone platform on top was covered, wouldn't she suffocate to death inside? She did not have any tools on hand. Otherwise, she could have made a few holes on the side of the stone platform. This fellow sighed and looked at the stone platform. This thing was very hard. Could it be that she had to gnaw on it with her teeth? This fellow blinked her eyes and finally thought of an idea. She placed the stone platform on the ground and began to rub it. This fellow simply felt that she was too smart. As she rubbed it, she hummed a little tune. Rub, rub, rub on this smooth ground. Rub, rub, like the footsteps of a devil. He didn't know if it was because he had eaten too many cabbages, but he didn't feel the least bit tired as he moved the 10-foot-long stone platform. He felt as if he had an endless amount of strength in his body. He didn't dare to make the gap too big. When he felt that it was enough, he stopped. After solving a major problem, he finally felt a little more at ease, so he began to eat cabbages. This fellow felt that he was most likely going to become a dahua. Otherwise, why would he always be hungry? After eating a few large cabbages, Hei Shinjio began to cultivate her soul power. What Hei Shinjio didn't know was that the people outside were all in an uproar. There was no other reason, but for some inexplicable reason, her soul power had actually decreased again. Elder June, we've already worshipped that new drifter to the ghost ancestor, so why did our soul power decrease again? Could it be that it wasn't because the ghost ancestor statue was destroyed? Lord Hu said to the square-faced old man. He was rather regretful in his heart. If he had known earlier that it wasn't because of that little drifter, he wouldn't have locked her in the soul-gathering cave. What a pity. The square-faced old man frowned. Tomorrow is the opening time of the soul-gathering pearl. We'll see how things go first. Ahu, don't let strangers into the cave again in the future. Lord Hu's expression stiffened. He knew that Elder June was blaming him for taking in Yun Chujio, so he replied with an embarrassed expression. After a while, the soul power returned to normal, and everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Hei Shinjio cultivated her soul power for a while, then began to try the airbending technique. To be honest, this fellow didn't have much confidence. After all, Li Ji had once said that only 2-star black rank people could use the airbending technique. She had only cultivated it for a few days, so she reckoned that it wouldn't succeed. However, once this fellow used Chumo's method, his entire body rose from the ground. With a bang, his head hit the ceiling of the cave, nearly knocking this fellow unconscious. Fuck, didn't we agree that only 2-star black rank people could use airbending? Chapter 45:01 hit a big bump on the head. As Hei Shinjio was not familiar with the flying technique, she hit a big bump on the head very quickly. This fellow touched the big bump on the head and smiled. Did this mean that she had only cultivated for a few days and reached the 2nd star of black rank? With this kind of cultivation speed, she would soon be able to torture these evil spirit dregs. This fellow moved closer to the stone platform and took a look. She stared at it for quite a while and realized that there was nothing between her eyebrows. There were not 2 black moles as she had thought. Could it be that she hadn't reached the 2nd star of the black rank? Just as the fellow was thinking, a dazzling white light flashed across the stone platform. When she regained her sight, she realized that the cabbages on the stone platform had decreased by a lot. It seemed that her guess was right. The array below was indeed a teleportation array. However, she didn't know if the evil spirits knew about the existence of this teleportation array or where the cabbages had been teleported to. This fellow could not help but feel a little regretful. She should have learned more spells from Chu Mo previously. Now, other than the airbending technique, she did not know anything else. Otherwise, she could have blended in with the cabbages to investigate. Hei Shinjio estimated that it was almost time. She drilled into the groove of the array formation plate and fastened the stone platform on it. There was only a narrow gap that could be used for ventilation. Hei Shinjio heard the messy footsteps in a daze. She thought that it was time for the so-called soul-gathering pearl to open. As the gap was on the side, this guy's vision was limited. He could only see a few people's shoes and legs, not even their faces. This guy decided not to look at it and lay in the groove to listen to the sound. She heard the square-faced old man mumble a few words, asking for the ghost ancestor's blessing and thanking the ghost ancestor. Then Hei Shinjio saw a white light through the gap, and the white light did not disappear. Yun Chujio listened carefully, but the evil spirits did not move. Could it be that the white light was the light from the so-called soul-gathering pearl? Could it be that the soul-gathering pearl had appeared? This guy could not help but get excited. He wanted to go out and snatch the soul-gathering pearl, but after thinking for a while he gave up. Even if she could get the soul-gathering pearl, she would not be able to defeat those people. It was better to take it slowly. However, she couldn't let such a good opportunity go to waste. Hence, this fellow began to cultivate in the groove. Although she couldn't sit cross-legged, she was able to forcefully circulate the meridians in her body. This time, the evil spirits outside were in a miserable state. While they were cultivating, they discovered that the soul power in the stone chamber had disappeared. To be precise, the soul power had gathered near the stone platform. No matter how they cultivated, the soul power didn't go to their side. What's going on? Why has it been so abnormal these few days? Yeah, the ghost ancestor must be blaming us for not protecting her statue well. That's why she's blaming us. It's all that new drifter called Little Joe's fault. If she hadn't damaged the ghost ancestor's statue, these things wouldn't have happened. Everyone's gazes couldn't help but turn to Lord Hu and Wan Xiong. If it wasn't for Lord Hu letting the new drifter in and Wan Xiong arranging for her to clean the ghost ancestor's statue, none of this would have happened. Lord Hu and Wan Xiong's expressions were very uncomfortable. If there was a medicine for regret, the two of them would definitely be the first to buy it. It was just a pity that there was no medicine for regret in this world. Lord Hu suddenly stood up and said, "Elder June, I think there might be something wrong with the stone platform. I'll go over and take a look." Hei Xinjiu, who was in the groove, was shocked. If he discovered her, she was afraid that she would not be able to survive. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.